Hey, it's Bruce from the Joinery Coach. I'm here at the Biesse Materials Week show in Sydney. We're here to do a couple of presentations. Nigel, our efficiencies expert coach, is doing an amazing presentation on going from bottlenecks to breakthroughs today at 11:45. It's going to be just a fantastic event. We're really, really humbled and proud to be invited to these events to just give our value to the members that come in. People that come to these shows are looking for better ways to improve their business. Whether it's a new machine, whether it's new software, there's all kinds of people here, businesses, whether it's software, whether it's tooling, doesn't matter what it is. We're all here to give to the industry and to help you improve your business and just get better results. So it's just amazing to be here. It's amazing to mix with the industry and give value back. So let's carry on in the show, and we'll show you some more stuff that's going on. We're going to get started. I'm not going to talk to you today, so first bonus for you for the day. I'm just going to introduce Nigel. How many of you know about us as a Joinery Coach? You clients, don't put your hand up. Has anybody done any research on us, YouTube channel, podcast yet? So you know a little bit about us. We don't need to blather on about our shit for too long. Okay. Our ethos is to help you in business. And these shows are great, right? Because you can buy something. You can buy a machine, you can buy software, you can buy an inanimate object that might help you with something. What we're here to tell you is that, in business, it hasn't really significantly changed the industry because everybody's now still struggling with business that has all these objects. So our whole reason for being is to help you as people learn more how to do more. Because if you learn more, you can do more. And if you keep learning, you'll be able to do more. So Nigel's going to talk to you today about how to focus on improving your system. So I want to just, first of all, I guess, start out by thanking Biesse for inviting us to this event. It's not every day you get invited to an amazing event like this. And next week, we're going to be in New Zealand at the Master Joiners Conference, which is going to be really cool. Does anybody, before we get started on anything today, I like to start out most events. Does anybody have any questions? Is there anything burning a hole in your brain that you'd really like to ask before we jump into anything? Like, where'd we get these shirts?
There's only one person with an appreciation of good colours. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Curious, your experience joinery coaches, you got experience from being in small companies to being in large companies?
Good question. I own my own cabinet business. I'm a cabinet maker by trade.
And that's why I wasn't too sure about size of companies. Obviously, different sizes, still got the same sort of problems. It doesn't matter what size you got.
Okay, so I love the question. I'll just point out a gentleman in the room right now by the name of Leroy. Leroy, I think when we first met, it was the show of Leroy, wasn't it? One-man band. Not our typical client. One-man shows. But Leroy committed to his business and said, no matter what happens, I'm going to make a go of this. Now you have a team of 3, 4, 2 years later. So that's the journey. Some people join and they've got 30 people in their business. As a general rule, we don't work with large businesses. Nigel's worked for Boeing. Hard to turn the ship around.
What number of staff would you say is a large business?
Couple of hundred.
Couple hundred, yeah. And there's very few of those sort of. Yeah. So anything from 1 or 2 person operation up to 50, 60. That's our typical. Yeah. We don't really say no to anyone, but we don't generally get contacted by the 200 person businesses. They kind of, there's not that many of them here in Australia. Now, if we're in the States, United States, that'd be a different story. That would be our core client. But we don't want that. It's easy to turn a business around that's got like 8, 10 people. Today, we can make a difference. That's why we choose to work in this size, because we can actually make a difference today. Nigel and I have both worked in large industry. It's frustrating. Even if you're making a difference, sometimes you get fired for doing that because someone else gets threatened. No fun. Right? So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Nigel, who's going to wow your socks off today. And the one thing I would encourage you to do is ask questions. We are interactive. We don't want to just stand up here and talk at you all day long. The more questions you can ask, if something comes to mind, don't be afraid to just fire it out. So without any further ado, Nigel Newman.
Thanks, Bruce. Welcome. Thanks for the tyre pump. It's always useful. All right, so just as Bruce said, we're going to just do a couple of slides about who we are. And obviously, we have a lot of content out on YouTube. I think, Bruce, you've been making content for 6 years, 7 years? How long?
Yeah, it's been a long time. There's
right?
literally hundreds and hundreds of free YouTube videos. And our podcast is on YouTube as well.
The podcast has been running for about the same amount of time?
6 years, yeah.
6 years, right. So, and there's a lot of clients have said to us, why are you giving so much stuff away for free on the content on the podcast? So there's some really good insights in there, some good shop talk, anything from construction methods to lean thinking. So dive in, that's a free resource for you. This is our team. Our latest additions are Carol, our leadership coach, and Sarah, our admin officer. And we've got Riley, who's here today as our media champion. And the other, so myself, Bruce, Aaron, and Tiffany are all the coaches within the business. We all have our own specialities or wheelhouse, but we can kind of all cross over as well. So just a little bit about our work. So we often do get our clients together at least once a year, and we tend to pick a state that we're going to go and visit, and we put on events for them. So these are physical workshops where we actually work on targeted goals through those workshops, to actually go away with an outcome. And it's really great to see our clients fly in from all over the place to actually make the time to come and spend 2 days with us. They're pretty good events. People get to connect, you get to meet other people in the same boat you're in, running a small business, medium business, and you realise, I'm not alone, everyone's going through this, we're all actually going through similar problems. So just pause on this screen for a second. What we offer here is through the QR code. If you scan this with your phone right now, I'll give you a minute or two, just downloads a free business health check. So it's like a scorecard you can fill in around all the aspects of your business, from your sales flow right the way through to customer experience. And it just asks you a few basic questions and gets you to score and rate your business across those 9 different areas. So just grab that now. It will be available later, and Bruce will have it tomorrow in his presentation as well. Cool.
It's a free giveaway. You're not going to be. We're not trying to sell you anything. Just so I'm clear, This is actually just a scorecard. You can just go online, do it. You'll get like a 18-page report after you do the scorecard. It'll tell you all kinds of stuff. It legitimately just a free giveaway.
Often people in our industry, especially running a small business, and you don't really know how everyone else does things, right? So this is a good way to give yourself a good, reflection, if you like, of how your business is operating. Because often we assume that it's going really well or think it's not going well, but we don't really know, right? We're not really sure how other people are doing things. All right. Okay, so we get into the crux of it. So systems. Normally I always like to define things, because we find we're using words, and what we find is, sometimes we're mistaking what the meaning of this might be, right? So a system, why do we need a system at work? And at what point would you need one? So imagine you all have systems at work. You might be your email system for communication, might be something as simple as that. The example I like to use for a system is something like a road system, right? Because you all use it. You all use the road system. Every system is based on a set of rules. There's clear rules on the road. We go to driving school, we understand what those rules are, we get tested, and if proficient, we're allowed to go and let loose on the road system, right? And then if we break those rules, there's always a consequence. You go speeding, if you get caught, you get a fine. You don't drive on the right side of the road, policeman sees you, you'll get pulled over. So it's really important that when we think about a system, they're all based on a set of rules, and those rules drive routines and behaviours. Who here would say they've got behaviours in their business, whether it's your own or your team members, that you'd say is not ideal? Yep. That was very quick. Yep. Right. What are some things you notice that you see?
Just try to put systems in place where you get somebody to upload all the files onto a server, so everyone's got access to it, and people don't do it. It's a small example, but that's one of them.
Yeah, right. So it's like the guy on the road not following the road, following the roads. So what's the consequence?
Somebody needs that file, it's not accessible to everyone.
But what's the consequence for the person uploading it? Because remember I said all systems must have rules.
Nothing at the moment.
Okay. So now you know what's missing, right?
Sorry?
Now you know what's missing, right?
But it's actually a cost.
So,
It's
yeah.
ultimately a cost.
Yeah,
Because it's all the lost time.
Yes.
correct. Yeah, the impact's the impact. The impact of not following the rule, like not following the speed sign, is a fine, a ticket. It's going to impact you financially, right?
Correct.
And hopefully that changes your behaviour. And I'm not saying you go and fine everybody for not uploading their files,
Yeah.
but there should be a review of that system to go, oh, the file's uploaded this week. And someone checks it and then reminds the person, hey, you didn't upload your files. Make sure you do that. Like any new system, it needs nurturing at first, not threat or punishment. So we have to nurture people into the new behaviours, and that normally takes about a month to get people wired. If you're giving them regular feedback each day, remind them, hey, check in the file system. The last job, the files weren't attached. John, make sure they're attached next time. Got it, boss. Most people, if given the right feedback, will adjust, will change. So I just wanted to define a system using the road analogy and then an example from someone in the crowd. But I'm sure we all have parts of the business that we go, so either the system's not being followed if we have one, no one's really doing anything about it, or the system hasn't really been defined and people actually don't understand it yet, don't understand what they should be doing. The latter is often when the system is verbal system. So we're just telling people over and over again, we haven't created processes, right? So all good systems we're going to talk about today, all based on processes. Documented process that you can train someone to, you can show them, take them through it if they forget, and it's clear that that now becomes part of the way the business operates. Once it's documented, you say, well, that's the way we do it. We're okay to have discussion around if we want to change that, make it better, but until someone has a better way, that's the way we've all got to do it. One way, right? One way for everything. So everyone clear on the need for systems at work is any time you have more than 3 people, if I just clarify that. Why? Because when there's 2 of you, you all know who did what, right? It's me or you. Either I did or you did, and we can have a very clear conversation. As soon as you get a third person in the business, it's somebody. Somebody did this, somebody left the tool out, somebody left the job unattended, right? So as soon as we get more people, we get complexity, and then we have to have systems in place. And the very first system, because it's probably a lot of people in this room will agree, communication is really hard in a large company. Like 3, 4, 5 people or more, communication tends to start to break down. Anybody here who thinks they've got an awesome communication system, works flawlessly throughout the whole business? Okay. I've worked in many industries, and it's not unique to this industry. Communication is a problem when you have a group of people trying to do work together, always. So verbal systems are very fragile and ineffective because it relies on everyone having great memories. And believe it or not, we don't have great memories. Even people who think they do have. We can only track really 3 or 4 things at any one time as a human brain effectively. So if you're trying to track 20 jobs, forget it, it's not working. All right, so let's get into a little bit of history. Just changing gears here. So what's systems got to do with history? Well, we never used to have systems. Not really in the way we have today. Documented, rule-based, not around the way we did work anyway, because pre-1800s, everything was really a craft, right? So everything was done in a craft manner, which meant, you know, if I was working for local dignitary or king of the area, I would be commissioned to do some artwork or build some furniture or even do the building work itself, and there wouldn't really be these constraints we have today, you know. It's going to take kind of as long as it takes because they came to a craftsman who does amazing work. And it's got to look a certain way and perform a certain way. So it always required someone who's super skilled, really passionate about what they were doing, and typically everything was done by hand. All the features, everything was done, created by hand. There was no machinery involved. So very low efficiency, typically low volume, a lot of one-off pieces, and high effort. Then what happened was we had the Industrial Revolution, right? Or the start of that was around late 1700s to 18. So mechanisation, machinery, steam power, eventually electric and diesel power. So what happened there was suddenly we could do things a lot quicker. Machinery allowed us to produce things at a very high rate and very repeatably. But there was a limitation. Does anyone know what the limitation might have been at the start of the Industrial Revolution? The machines were... There's a famous saying from Henry Ford, if anyone remembers it. Yeah, you can have any colour you like, on your car as long as it's black, right? So we couldn't actually do customization with machinery because it was too hard to change the machine over from one product to another. I hadn't worked that out back then. So yes, we could make 10,000 things really quickly, but they had to all be the same. So why doesn't that fit into today's, what people want today? What do people want today? Everything unique. I want it my style, my color. I want to be able to choose exactly what I want. So industry has really struggled in the last probably 40 or 50 years. How do you turn machines and processes that can make one thing like this and then change over and make one thing like that? And lo and behold, you know, what do you all have, most of you have in your factory that can do that, can make different pieces, your CNC. Right? So if you have a CNC, by definition, you're not craftsman anymore. You're a manufacturer. So I just want that to sink home, because a lot of people go, oh, we're craftsmen. Show me the hand work you do. It's probably 10% of what you do, maybe 15% of what you do. The rest is actually through mechanization. Even your chop saw, your panel saw has stopped, it's a machine. So we're now moving into manufacturing. And unfortunately, craft mindset doesn't work well when you apply it to manufacturing. Kind of polar opposites, right? We want to say, oh, we're unique, everything's different. Well, guess what? Industry has changed in the last 20, 30 years. Now, you know, we can do automation with uniqueness. So your CNC can produce different shaped parts, different things all day long, shaker doors. One board after another can be different, right? There's no, you have to cut 100 things the same. So just those who are interested in the history, you know, there was Eli Whitney was the guy who really, during the war effort, able to mass produce muskets, which back in that time was important because it was all done by hand before. Now you can produce those and supply a better war effort. Frederick Taylor was 1911, and he really helped the war effort in the United States in World War II because he was about the division of labour. So if you want to know who created management, worker, supervisor, it was this guy. It was his concepts that said, hey, we need to divide the labour. Can't have 100 craftsmen all working. If we want to get things done on scale, we need to have supervisors looking after a team. We need to have managers looking after the supervisors. So that was in a very basic way explaining what Frederick Taylor did. But very foundational because all modern work is set up based on his principles. Sometimes not used effectively, but if following the true intent, very effective. So, a little bit more history, because we're talking now about lean manufacturing. And lean manufacturing is really, what we mean by that is the application of science to manufacturing. So not, you know, I had a term when I used to work in the States called bro science. Ever heard that one before? Bro science is when you learn from your mate, but you actually don't understand how it works. But your mate's go, no, do it this way, it works really well. But you don't know why you do it that way. Right? Scientific management, or scientific thinking, which is what these guys developed in manufacturing, is about having a bit of a plan and a hypothesis about what you think is going to happen. And one of the first things we coach in factories is put up a visual board and write out your plan for the week. That's the scientific method. That's your hypothesis of what you think the factory is going to do this week. What boards it's going to cut, what pieces it's going to build on the benches, and what jobs it's going to install. And if you track that through the week and you're ticking off what's done and not done, by the end of the week you've got a story. You look back and you go, either we hit our plan, our hypothesis was perfectly correct, everything went smoothly. Reality is probably won't. There'll be a day or two, you had a guy not turn up, the machine stopped for a few hours, maybe a board come in, it was the wrong colour. So you can now study by the things that went wrong and marked on that board, and then you can got something to improve on, rather than assumptions around what's going on in the business. So everything we coach in lean manufacturing is around applying a scientific method to things, because it's repeatable, it gets you to the solution and stops opinion. You know, the old one, I've been doing this 30 years, I know what the problem is. I hear that a lot in all industry. And I say, that's great, you probably are right, but let's run it through a quick scientific method. And if the result comes out the same, cool, you're on it. But I'd rather do that and take 10 minutes to do that than actually just trust someone blindly, because sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes we are wrong, right? So these three guys, you know, we all know Henry Ford. He's got a vehicle out there that's been around for a long time and really was the mass production master, right? He really, really did great work there. These guys actually learned from Ford, believe it or not. They went over to the States, they looked in the factories when they had to go and create their own motor industry. And then this guy came along in about the 1940s and 50s and really helped them create the scientific method approach. So what makes the difference between Toyota and Henry Ford or Ford is what this guy helped these guys with. So applying scientific method to manufacturing. All right, so enough of the history lesson. Let's now get into bottlenecks on flow and system thinking and why that's important in your business. So what do we mean by systems thinking when we talk about our workspace? So often what we're seeing is we often see an optimization applied to a part of the flow, someone's job or some function. The one I like to really talk about is our CNC machine. So we optimize the CNC machine to save offcuts, right? To save material. Who does that here? Show of hands. Right, so when you're nesting, you've got an option. You can nest by cabinet sequence, or you can nest by material optimization. And most people, especially the drafter themselves, because it's, hey, what can I do to save the company some money? All right, I'll optimize and save offcuts and have the minimum wastage on each board, right? The reality is, if he got off his chair and walked out to the factory and watched what happens on the CNC when you do that, you're cutting a 60-board job, trolley's getting filled, can't go anywhere because it still hasn't got all the parts on it. And on the 57th board, the last part for cabinet 1 is coming off. There you go, put it in the trolley, here you go, right, off to assembly. That's by definition what we call big batch. Cut a whole job, a whole house lot, 60-board job, and it can't go anywhere until that last board is cut because it's held up and needed for the first part. That's what happens when you optimize for material. Right? So you hold the batch ransom at the machine, no one can work on it because it's not complete. And if you actually go down and watch the guys sorting the parts out, right, it's only got to spend half an hour sorting and you've written off any money you saved on the material optimization. So it's a false economy to do that. Doesn't create flow, creates big batch. And I challenge anyone to go and nest the job 2 different ways, same job, and see what the difference is in board wastage. Work out what that cost you. So if it's in a whole sheet of white melamine, work out what that is at your local rate. And then go look at how long it takes the guys to sort the parts and work out what the dollar value in their wages was. Pretty confident, in fact, I'm very confident, it's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 to 1 difference. So when we say optimize the whole, we've got to understand any changes we're making. Is it really helping the overall flow? Or is it just helping me in my little area? I think I'm saving money, but in the reality is I'm probably not. So when we say optimize the whole, every change, we've got to think about where does this change flow on and affect other areas? And if it has a negative effect there, then probably not the right change to make. Does that make sense to everybody? It's a bit counterintuitive, right? Clearly I can save material and that's $1 I can say is in the bank, but I'm not actually measuring the loss of the time it takes someone to sort those parts, especially if they're flat stacked. That's even a bigger waste. So if we think like that, then this makes more sense, right? So when we make changes, we want to do it as a group. We certainly want the supervisors and managers involved. And if we've made a change, we want to have a weekly get-together, talk about those changes, and go, was there a negative consequence that we didn't think about? When we made that change and we optimized something, did the next person down the flow actually get a negative effect? And only if you guys are working as a cross-functional team and talking about changes, will you discover that. Often, has anyone ever been in the shop and something's happened? Decisions made by management or ownership, and it's a negative consequence, but they're unaware of that. Could even be buying a new machine. Could even be something like that. Go, hey, everyone thinks it's going to be the bee's knees, but actually, it doesn't work well in our environment. It's round the wrong way. The whole direction of the machine is the wrong direction. It's the opposite to our edge band, and now we're walking a lot more. But the boss is really happy that he's got this machine that goes 3 times faster. But now you're just walking around a lot more. So anybody got maybe an example or had that happen? Something that's been brought into the business?
Not an example, but I guess the way here, looking at buying a machine or buying a machine in general, like good feedback to build up with that is, it's a fast machine. I'm like, yeah, but the bloke at the end is on a toilet bath now. Shit, man.
Yeah.
If your business isn't fully organised and it's efficient,
Yep.
these little things sometimes can help base, but you might be spending losing in another way as well.
It's a really good point. Yeah, exactly what that means. Yeah, we can optimize, but if you don't have the process around how the machine should run, how the guy should man it and balance himself between the edger and the CNC. You're right, if he just wanders off and does something else, all that time you saved, it's gone, right? So, yeah, absolutely. Often, we've got a slide we'll talk a little bit later about that effect of when you buy new things and they drift back or they don't really give you the result you want, and you get frustrated after a while. Spending all this money, you're not seeing the return. So, cross-functional collaboration, really important. This is what drives improvement. You know, when you get everybody together talking about changes, it's really important. And to do that in a structured way and a regular way. If we get those three right, we can start to see the waste in the system. And when I'm talking about waste in lean manufacturing, I'm not talking about what's in the bin. I'm talking about the type of waste you observe, which is when people are not doing high-value tasks, so not doing things that are actually turning the material one step closer to a finished product you can sell. So if I'm walking and the bench is there, that's waste. Right? What am I walking to get? Let's find out and bring it closer or put it in the bench. Why should I be walking around finding stuff? Someone's dropped pallets in the middle of where I need to put my cabinet. So now I'm stopping and I'm moving the pallets out of the way. Believe it or not, the customer's paying for that, or you're paying for that as a business owner, but it's waste, right? It's stuff that shouldn't be happening, but it is because there's no process or place for that pallet to go. There's no organisational process to bring things closer to where people work. So the waste is there, and often we think as long as people look like they're busy, we're okay, cool, supervision done, right? They all look busy, okay, I'm going to go back in the office. Rather than going, well, what are they actually doing? The guy's searching through a drawer, that's a problem. Why can't he find what he needs first time, every time? That's the business process we want to wrap around our staff. And think of the factory like a product. How well does your factory work? You're responsible as owners for how the factory works, believe it or not. If you bring guys in and let them do what they want with their tools and do what they want with everything, that's not a system. That's a bunch of individuals doing what they want. And often I hear people, oh, I don't want to upset him by telling him he has to work, differently. Hey, well, you know what you're getting today, you'll know what you're going to get in 5 years with that kind of mindset. We've got to be confident to bring people on board that it's our factory and we want to develop the one way that it works, and it works for everybody. That's this bit, right? Bringing people together. Often we'll recommend, hey, start your team meeting once a week, the guys on the floor, and just ask them what's frustrating them, what's bugging them. Start there. That's a really good conversation starter. Don't start with, what can we improve? Because everyone will just probably go silent. But if you start with what's frustrating, everyone's got stuff on the tip of their tongue about that. I'm sure everybody in this room, if asked in their company, could all come up very easily with 2 or 3 things that are frustrating you. Right? Your team also will be able to provide that feedback really easily if you start that meeting. All right, so this is all the stuff around the outside. These are all the kind of the widgets, things we need to get going, the mindset. But what's the really important bit is this. So this is measuring yourself. Anybody who wants to do well in something, a sportsman, sports team, someone who just wants to get better in the gym or weight loss, they all have a metric or a measure they use, right? To know whether what they're doing is effective. So really important that we think of our business as something that we want to get better, then we've got to have some basic measures on that. Classic one, a really good one, is measuring defects, measuring rework, right? Because probably is what's stopping a lot of the things going right a lot of times when there's a mistake, an error, or maybe we've got some bad material in, didn't realise something until we cut it. So starting to track and measure defects and then looking for trends, not fixing every single one of them, because that'd be overwhelming, but looking for trends around what are the common things that are going wrong. So it could be defective hardware you're getting in, could be, the skill level on the guys because they're all doing it different. Maybe it's not giving you the repeatable result. So by measuring defects or quality, it's a really good starting point for improvement. Could also measure delays, like every time the machine stops. Why is it stopping? An alarm came up. It's come up 6 times this week. We've lost 3 hours. All right, let's get that alarm fixed. So it's a repeating problem. So be able to track cause and effect. When quality mistake happens, we missed the delivery or we call back to site. Cool, that's the cause and effect. Let's fix that defect. And having those things written down and recorded is what makes that a scientific method. Someone once said to me, Nigel, what's the difference between effing around and scientific method? Because in scientific method, you write shit down. It's the only difference. You just start writing down what you think is going to happen or what has happened. rather than relying on he said, she said.
I've got a question. How many people in the room right now, just to show of hands, would say you would like to become more efficient in your business?
All right, yeah. 100%.
How efficient are you right now?
Yeah, does anyone know how efficient you are right now? Is there any way to measure that?
So this is where the problem is. If we were to make you 1% more efficient, how would you know? You wouldn't.
Yeah.
So metrics are the key to your success. You know you're getting a little bit better each time, but if you don't measure, you don't know.
That's right, yeah. And sometimes you can just have a good month, right? It just can be hey, everything just went pretty well this month. You can kind of kid yourself that everything's going better. But with this kind of system, cause and effect, when you change something, you know what it's going to change because you've written down, have we changed this or reduced this defect, this won't happen again. And you're measuring, you don't see it come back up. You go, hey, that worked. So it's like when you solve something, it's like a lever. You pull it, the problem goes away, you let go of it, you let the condition come back, the problem comes back. It's got to be demonstratable. Can't just be, hey, we did lots of improvement stuff this month and look, the numbers look good. If they don't link, there's not cause and effect clear linkages. Like you did lots of work improving quality, but that's not what changed, something else changed. Then, we've got to question that. We want honest improvement, real improvement that we can actually measure. It becomes quite kind of addictive when you get onto that pathway. It's like getting on the scale each week and going, hey, I've lost weight, or measuring your muscles if you're bodybuilding or growing mass, it gets addictive. You get this feedback loop that's saying, hey, what you're doing is working. And fundamentally, what do we all want? We all just want to know we're getting better at stuff. That's a basic human condition. So now we're going to go through, what do some of these things look like, right? If we get a system in place, what are some of those things that we'd be starting to notice, or how would that look, right? So everything's connected in your business. We're in a very unique and challenging environment to apply lean methodology to. There's 4 environments. I'll only talk about the 2 at either end of the scale. The easiest one is the widget factory. Making the same thing over and over again. Still has challenges. It's the easiest one to put in lean thinking and lean methodologies. The hardest one is the design and manufacture one, where you're not stocking anything on a shelf. You don't know what customers want until they walk in the door and they go, hey, I want something, and you start drawing it, right? So design to manufacture is the most challenging one because of the lead times, the approvals, the uniqueness of what we're doing. It is the most challenging one. So you're in a tough industry to apply these things to, and that's why a lot of people actually quit early on. They go, it's too hard, I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing for years. But I kind of go, well, you know what the future brings in. It's the same as what you've been getting. So that's more tolerable, then choose that pathway, but you're probably going to come back in a year and go, hey, I've had enough. I really want to change things. So remember, everything is connected: design, cutting, even sales should be on this. Sales, design, cutting, assembly, delivery, and installation. So if you make a change here, especially here, can sometimes have an adverse effect here, or even in installation. People changing from kicks to plastic legs. People changing construction method, solid back against the wall. Versus a little bit of recess. Now you've got a lot more packing to do, right? So there's a number of things that we have to consider, and if we have that weekly meeting, and any changes that these guys are thinking of, or changes that these guys up here want that's going to change the design, we can talk about that. Trial it for a couple of weeks, get feedback. Right? Really important that we understand the connection between all the processes. No one of these can work independently of everybody else. Right? Plus, we want to start creating feedback loops that if you're seeing issues here, that they can go back and go, hey guys, stop the machine. Some parts coming through, the hinge is in the wrong position. Stop the machine, let's work out what the problem is. Could actually lead back to a drafting error, potentially. So the ability to find problems quickly and stop, really important when we think about the way the flow is connected. Because a small change in one area affects the whole workflow. There might be something really small the design has changed, but then big impact. Has anyone got an example of something that's changed in a business that's you're going to go, what the heck is this? Where did this come from? It turns out to be an idea of someone else in the business, but it's had an adverse effect on what you were trying to do. Yeah? Good.
Yeah, we've got a drafter who's like just proper creative, and he just does weird details. That's white in.
Right, okay.
It gets to the assembly, and the boys are just scratching their head, like, how the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah.
So he's got to come down, we're taking him away from his desk, so we just have a very meeting Thursday, and we're like, just look at the head, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Detail.
Yeah.
But he's just creative, so he's just like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people, they're really good at what they do, and there's a little bit of ego that comes. Nothing wrong with that. Having an ego around what you're really proud of and what you can do well, it's great. But if it's not helping every person here, think of this way. Internal customer is a phrase we use a lot in lean manufacturing. So he's a supplier, believe it or not. And he's supplying him. And actually this guy here. He's supplying him information in the form of a drawing. And they're providing the G code for the machine, right? So if he's thinking that this is my customer, but he doesn't get out of his office and go and talk to them and go, hey, how's the drawings coming through? How are the elevation views? Can you see everything? There's the overall length, is the dimensions correct? If he's not seeking feedback from his customer, then probably have a chat with him about, hey mate, come and spend a day a week in the workshop. See how your designs are getting built and if there can be any improvement there. See if the guys understand the information you're giving them. These guys are supplying the guys up here in installation, right? So again, there should be an install or an assembly discussion once a month or once every couple of weeks about, hey, how's the stuff coming to site? Anything can we load the van in a different sequence? Is it easy to get stuff off the van? What could be done better? So think of these as internal customer or supplier and customer, supplier, customer. And it changes the way they think about what they're doing. It gets rid of that hierarchy that I'm an office guy. Guys in the factory are, here. And I come from the factory, but I've also worked in an office, so I know it's a real thing. There's this kind of thing now, in the States they call it white collar, blue collar. If I went to university, if I run a technical job versus a hand-on job, there's this kind of separation that occurs in our brains. But it's not true. If you think of customer supplier, because often I'll say to a designer, I said, if you were to go sit in as a remote drafter, would your customers come back to you every day and go, give me more drawings? Because that's the reality, right? You want your guy to be as good as someone who just drafts for other people and gets paid for it. Because that's what he's doing for you guys in your business. So very important that we change the thought process in our company that you're supplying someone something, a product. Your product's a drawing, in this case. If you're running the machine, you're providing cut parts. Have you gone and have that conversation? How is it coming to you the right way? Because if the first thing you see in the guy is searching through the car, you go, oh, maybe I can provide those parts in a sequence, cabinet by cabinet. I can talk to the drafter about that. So creating flow requires the understanding of how these sections are connected. Because how your work impacts the next step really important. And it's the easiest thing to get your team together and start to talk about. All right, balance the workload. So this is all about not overproducing, because in terms of waste, overproducing is the biggest problem. It creates all the other wastes of walking and motion and people moving stuff out the way. So if your CNC is just piling up parts and your assembly team can't keep up, then stop the machine, have the guy on the machine go and help. Build draw boxes. If he's not, if he's not super qualified, that's fine. Give him put hardware in, clip hardware in. Run the edger, But don't keep running parts if it's just piling up. You need to free the carts up and get them back to the machine so the guy can actually feed the assembly, not kind of make them choke. Right? That would be a definition of a bottleneck, where parts are sitting around in the factory just piling up and there's not someone on the other side pulling them through. Does anybody here not do that? Like they keep running the machine even though all the carts are full. Often people just buy new machines and go, the machine can't stop. Spend all this money on it. But run the machine just enough to feed the assembly guys and maybe, half a day or a day's worth of work beyond that, if it's a reliable machine. Avoid overproduction, because an overproduction creates a bottleneck. Who of you think you have enough space in your factory or would like more space in your factory? Right, okay, so a lot of, right. So we don't want to have parts piling up, because that takes up the most space, or cabinets built too early and then they're sitting in finished goods for 2 weeks. Right? So avoid the bottlenecks, don't overrun your machine, and try not to start your projects unless you know site's ready. I know it's a challenge, but if you want to have a chat with us after, we'll talk about that a little bit. So work together. This is about what we said earlier, get the team together, talk about improvement, talk about bottlenecks, talk about the way the work's meant to flow, and definitely introduce your internal customers to your internal suppliers. I used to stand them up and go, hey, design, would you like to meet your customer? They go, what are you talking about? This guy here gets you drawings. Maybe you guys can have a chat around, is there anything that needs to change or be better? Often we see, you know, companies that are really keen to do improvement, but we go, well, how much time do you actually spend on improvement each week? You don't. How do you expect it to happen? So there should be a clear improvement meeting. You know, one for the shop floor and one for the management team, often the office team. Talking about your own areas of problems and what solutions you come up to solve those. Start at half an hour a week. That's what you can afford. But if you don't do that, there's a chance you will create optimized solutions in silos that won't have positive effects. No one likes to see a change and not know nothing about it if it comes into their work area. Like a new thing comes through. So small improvements, we'll talk a little bit, I've got another graph that shows how that works. So, you know, the big improvements of what we hear today, you know, the machine show. Buy a new machine, big improvement. Going from cutting a certain number of boards a day to now maybe double that or 50% more. It's a big improvement.
Is there any chance we can turn the AC on in that room?
The reality is
Is it
with
hot?
lean
It's getting
thinking,
pretty warm.
lean
Yeah.
methodology, we're looking for that small improvement every day. We're trying to build it into our DNA of the business. So we want people who actually think, when I come to work, my job is not to just do work. My job is to improve the work.
Unfortunately, it's not a very strong one.
And that takes a bit of time to get that across in a company culture. But if we start talking about the problems and start talking about how we're going to start solving these and dedicate
Oh,
some
you got a
time
lot
each
of
week
men
to
in that room.
That's how you kind of start that
Yeah,
change
yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
What we're looking for is delays. They're things that, parts that are sitting around. Why did we build that so early? It's sitting on the floor for 3 weeks. Oh, waiting for the parts to come from the paint. Oh, how about next time we get the parts painted first, bring them back and then start building the cabinets. So we don't have all this floor space taken up. Look for confusion. You know, I so often ask the drafter to go watch the guy, don't say anything to him, just watch him pick up your drawing and look at his face. If his face is like screwed up and scratching and he's spending 10 minutes before he even touches a cabinet, go ask him what it was he was struggling with the drawing. Because obviously it wasn't that easy to read, or the information he was looking for wasn't easy to find. Confusion, you know, when you're quoting jobs and you're quoting a kitchen or a house lot, you're not adding 10% for confusion time in your quote. But if that's what you're seeing on the floor, because the drawings are hard to interpret or the information is not clear, get the drafter to speak to the assembly guys and just get that feedback. Right? We should all be open to feedback. If someone's struggling with what we've made done for them, like, you know, if you get a client call you and say, hey, there's something wrong with the installation, you're back there straight away listening, going, yeah, what's wrong? We'll fix it. We need that same kind of attention internally. But when the guys on the floor go, hey, this is not right, we don't go, don't worry about it, just fix it and get it done. We get them talking to the person that created that thing. Could be a tool, could be a machine, could be a drawing. And we go, hey, what needs to change in this? We treat them the same as we treat the end customer. Because if you get everyone happy in the flow, your end customer gets a great result every time. If we're pushing and trying to fix mistakes and forcing it through, sometimes somebody's going to slip through. Or sometimes people become apathetic because they go, we know there's problems, but no one's really talking about fixing them. So, root cause, not the symptom. What's actually causing this problem, not just the surface symptom. Surface symptoms could be like, oh, John complains all the time. You know, there's gold in there. If you actually find out what he's complaining about, he's probably got a genuine reason. We've probably just tuned him out because he's very vocal. We don't want to do that. We actually want to start now listening to those people and go, well, what is the problem? Talk me through it, show me it. All right, so the goal, quality cabinets, faster with less waste. When we say faster, we don't mean moving faster. We mean the cabinet is moving through the flow faster because there's less stoppages for quality issues, confusion, delays, all that kind of stuff. And as a unified team, so we don't want people building on benches the whole kitchen themselves. If there's 4 guys, we want them building the kitchen together, working as a team. Right? Get more involved in not my bit's all right, Jack, not caring about you guys. No, we're the group, we get over the finish line together as a team if we produce this kitchen in the targeted hours that we're trying to do it in. And that way, we expect to help each other, right? When someone falls behind or needs some help or technical skill, we're there to provide that as a team. Just less stressful working like that than working in a silo, working on your own. All right, just a little reminder there. Okay, so all sounds great, right? Sounds awesome. Love to have that tomorrow. But how do we go about doing that? What are the things that we need to do in order to get that going? Well, a lot of it, unfortunately, is actually to do with the way we think. Is anyone surprised I said that? So, might be a hard pill to swallow what I'm going to say next, but it is very true. So if you don't like what you see in the factory, or you don't like the behaviours of some people within the business, I strongly advise you look in the mirror. What? Look in the mirror, right? Because your culture, if you're the owner of the business or you have a significant senior role in the business, is actually a mirror of you. I'm not saying that they're copying what you're doing, but if you don't plan your jobs properly, then there's probably a bit of chaos on the floor because they're not planning out their week properly. If you don't wear your safety glasses when you're on the machine or don't use the push stick, guess what? Other guys are going to think that's okay and they're going to do the same thing. Then when someone cuts their finger or has an injury, you go, what do you do that for? Weren't you using the push stick? So people are watching us all the time as leaders, right? All the time watching us. Now the first 3 months when someone starts, they'll have their own values and their own way of working. But after 3 to 6 months, people start to get normalised to whatever's around them. So they become part of the environment. Someone's not going to bring it. You're going to hire someone from a really good company. He's not going to come and transform your business. He's going to come there for 3 months, try and maintain what he did at the last place, and then he's going to succumb to whatever's going on in the environment. So our environment is what shapes our people. How many people have a shop here that's clean enough that you'd like to take your clients around it and be proud of it? Yeah, right, a lot of laughs, right? So if you do, right, you're happy. You'd say, so we have glass, we wrapped your factory in glass. You'd be happy for everyone to come through, your salespeople, right? But that's what I mean. So it's a mirror of you. If you're accepting that, accepting a messy factory that you're embarrassed about, your team feel the same way. No one wants to work in that place. No one wants to work in places like that. They will because they're getting paid, right? Maybe it's easier than finding another job. But the reality is, these are all reflections of what you're accepting. Can I ask you a question, Leroy? All right. Because we've been on the journey for a while, right? I've been working with Leroy probably from day one. Actually, when I started Joinery Coach was when you started. I think we started on the same day almost. And I know there's something that you realised after about 1.5 years, which was very much around. Now I have these systems in place and these things to do. I just need to do it. I just need to follow it, right? What do you find with some of the things that you knew you had to do, but you just kept finding you couldn't follow it for whatever reason, emotional, financial, whatever those pressures were? What were some of the things and what was the realisation, I guess?
Yeah, I found that I was the one that kept breaking our processes, or kept circumventing our processes for a variety of reasons, but it was me that kept doing it.
Yeah.
And that pushed through everybody else in the business. And I knew that I shouldn't do it, but I'd do it anyway.
Yeah.
And then pay the price.
Pay the price, yeah.
Down
Yeah.
the track. So, it was a realisation that I had to stop.
Yeah.
And that the buck stopped with me. It wasn't anyone else's fault. It was my fault. So yeah.
And how would you say that's one of the hardest things that you've had to master or control or get on top of?
Yeah, I mean it's a big thing getting all those systems and processes in place.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of work. You've got to be dedicated to it. So that's a challenge.
Yeah.
But then keeping yourself accountable to sticking to it is also a challenge.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So why I bring that back? So remember we talked about systems, rules. So once you create your business system, whether it's system for safety, quality, delivery, whatever the system is you're creating, requires discipline to follow the rules. And the first person to follow the rules is you. If you don't follow them, no one else will because they'll mirror what you're doing. And if you go, hey, don't worry about that. We're rushing this job through. Don't worry about the quality checks. Just get it on the truck. Guess what you've just done to any quality system you created? You basically told everyone it doesn't matter. So really important the shadow you cast as a leader in your business, especially as you start to create systems. And I know, Leroy, you felt bad when you knew you breaking those rules. You knew there was a consequence going to come, but the pressure at the time, you succumbed to it, and probably doesn't make you feel good knowing that there's going to be a consequence coming every time that happens.
Yeah. It's a bit also being emotional, like learning the emotion of whatever it is, whether it's financial pressure, whether it's a client's pressure.
Yeah.
And dealing with the builder who's saying, we need it now.
Yeah.
And you just push through, knowing that like it's going to come back to you.
There's going to be a defect pop up, or there's going to be costs pop up, return trip to site.
Yep. In place for a reason. As soon as you break it,
Yeah.
like you suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
So you're alleviating pain in the immediate.
Yes.
Suffer pain
Long term.
more
Yeah.
down the road.
Yeah. I guess it's and it's a learning process, right? You have to go through it several times, and every time you recognise, you get slightly better at it.
Yeah.
Controlling, the urge to the emotional response, and actually going, no, follow the process. I know if I follow the process, I'm going to get a better outcome than if I don't follow the process. But more importantly, when you've got a team, they see you do all this stuff.
All right, I've got a question.
Okay, cool.
Question for everyone. Again, show of hands. How many people in the room right now would say we would like our business to get better? Okay, rhetorical, right? Everybody puts their hand up. Again, show of hands. How many of you in your business actually have time on your schedules, your calendars, whatever you have, that says something like every second Thursday between 2 and 3 o'clock, we do something that improves our business? Over and above work, if work's not more important, how many of you have a schedule that says you're going to improve your business regularly? Typically very few hands, right? So we all want to grow the business, but if you don't actually make that a priority as important as doing the work, it's never going to happen. Imagine a sporting team never going to practice. We're just going to play the game. 90% of the time sporting teams practice, 10% they play the game. Therefore they win games. But in business, as evident in this room, very few businesses actually put time aside. So the how and the comfort zone that Nigel's going to talk to you about, this is where it gets painful, right? Say, no, we're not doing the work today because we have to spend half an hour doing something in the business. It was hard, wasn't it? Saying, stop, tools down. We're going to improve something in the business. And it's more important than doing the work. Really hard. And most businesses drop it and they just make the work the priority.
Very true. Yep. What do you find is some of our clients have made really good progress. They'll say that one, if they were to give advice to people starting this journey, actually two things that really stuck with me that a couple of clients said. One is they said how important that making that weekly stop time was, that half an hour to get the team together and start working on things, changing the layout, making a better workbench. So that was so pivotal to getting things moving quickly. The other one was that they said, I needed to understand myself first before I went to my team. I didn't delegate it to go, hey, you guys go make a new workbench. I understand, well, why are we making a new workbench? How's it meant to be better than the one we've got? They wanted to understand the processes first so they could actually coach their team. So our job is to, we're coaches, but our job is actually to make you coaches in your business so you can teach new things to your team. So right now we're here, right? We're in the comfort zone. But what we know in the comfort zone, nothing really changes. It's business as usual. So when we introduce a weekly meeting, we're probably going into here again because we're going, oh crap, we're going to lose. We've got 5 guys, they're stopping for half an hour. It's 2.5 hours of work, I'm not going to get out the door. It's probably the first thing that goes in half your minds. Worrying about, So we're immediately saying delivery, more important than improvement. But we know we've got tons of problems with delivery, getting things out the door and doing them right. So we have to kind of go, if we're going to get improvement into the DNA in our business, we've first got to brainwash ourselves, and it is a brainwashing exercise, to say improvement is actually ROI on the business. It's a return on investment. Every half hour I invest with every person, over time, should be giving me double that back at least. Then you don't think of it as a stop and a waste. I'm not getting jobs out. You're going, actually, I'm getting, the next jobs I do next month are going to go out more smoothly because I've just taken a couple of defects out of the system, or I've shortened the distance the guy's walking with the trolley. And that's all adding time back. So we have to kind of go through here to get to here. This is always what stops a lot of people. It's easier to go back to here and put up with the business as usual status quo than actually break through into here so we can change the way we think and change the way our staff think about what the purpose is when we come to work. As I said, improve the work, not just do the work. We can all do the work with our eyes closed most of the time, right? Most of the work is fairly straightforward. The guys are well trained and well experienced and good tradies. Most of the stuff that's not complicated, they can do pretty much while talking about the footy and other stuff. So we're not really using a lot of brain power at work. They're just going through the motions. Once we get them into thinking about how to improve work, not many places are asking them that. It's a very different feeling when you actually have genuine intent. We actually want to make your job easier. Not faster, easier. Because if it's easier, it will be faster. It will be less expensive, take less time. All right, so our job as coaches is actually to push you out of here, hold your hand through that bit so you don't feel scared. When you fall over, pick you back up, dust you off and go, let's keep going, and get you firmly into this because we know that leads to that. So, first problem that you need to solve, now we're getting to the how, right? What are the things that need to change in the business? And the first, probably, belief system I'll touch on. Belief system means just saying that people hold close and dear to themselves, but maybe don't know why. It's about the way work moves through the business. So imagine this is workload, sales, volumes, coming through the business. Right? Maybe that period is maybe a year. When's your busy time here? If you had a collective industry busy time, when would it be? Rolling into Christmas, right? Yeah, like guns are blazing all the way to December the 20th, whatever the last day is. And probably not taking any new jobs on start of December or end of November, right? So if you haven't, we kind of say if you haven't started the job by end of November, it's probably not going to go out this year, right? It'll go into next year. Any other peaks or troughs through the year that you guys notice? No? Okay, so
Slow January.
slow January, right? Yeah, you get a big push. This would be December, like October, November, December, and then typically January looks a bit light on, and maybe even February moving into this, right? So the biggest thing that causes what we call stop-start, the opposite of flow, is this effect, the sales process. And what we need to do for a factory to get really efficient, it needs to have a steady volume of work moving through it, not peaks and troughs. What happens when all you guys experience this? Yeah, right, yeah. Everything, all the good intentions go out the window, right? Quality check, all the things that we go, I haven't got time for, because we're actually pushing too much work in the system than we have capacity for. This line here would be our capacity. That went all the way across. And we're going, hey, we've gone way over actually what we've got to do. So what else do you normally have to do to get that work through? Starts with O. All right, overtime. On your quote sheet, do you quote, hey, half this job's going to be done in time and a half? No, you don't. Of course you don't, right? So you're losing money every time you do this. You're not making the profit you intended when you do that. But you've let it in the gate. You did it to yourselves. Right? None of your workers did that. You've let it in and agreed to those dates, even though they're on top of other jobs. So that's the first belief system we're going to tug on, meaning you're going to go, wait a minute, maybe I don't agree with that. You need to smooth that out. And you need to sell into a capacity planning tool that shows you what your capacity is in your shop, your machine capacity and your workbench capacity. So if you've got 4 guys, they work roughly, they do productive work about 7 hours a day. So you've got 21 hours capacity a day. That's the way to think of capacity planning. And then if you've got a job that's 60 hours, okay, there's 3 days worth of work in the shop sold for that month. And I've got to be able to put that into some kind of tool where I can see that. I can show the sales guy, hey, week 2 is full. We've just sold 2 jobs, that's full. Week 1 has still got a couple of days empty, and week 3 and 4 have a couple of days. So if you've got small jobs, come and fill those in. No longer is it the salesman just throwing jobs over the line and causing this effect. Mostly sales guys cause this because they're not aware of the capacity of the shop. And they're just selling for money, not selling into time. How many of you budget your monthly budgeting, not budgeting, your sales goals, if you like, I need to sell 300 grand a month, as opposed to I've got 400 hours capacity I need to fill a month, right? Planning for money, when actually what you're talking about is time, because we're talking about time in the shop, is a surefire way to create this problem. Because a 300,000 job and another 300,000 job may not take the same amount of time, even though you quoted them both the same.
Chuck a real life example in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Go.
Okay, I've got a story. I like telling this story because it happened to me. And when I tell it, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was running a cabinet shop in Canada. It wasn't my shop. I was running the shop. And we were kind of heroes because we would always get the work done. No matter what it took, we would get the work done. Overtime, weekends, my family would suffer, my personal life would suffer, but we always got it done. And the boss thought we were heroes. So guess what the sales guy did? He would sell as much as he could possibly sell. And he'd come in and he'd drop these files on the desk. Sold another kitchen, Bruce. Great, Mike. Well done. Looks like I'm not working. I'm not going away this weekend, right? Well, that was my fault, right? I didn't do anything to change that. And at the time, I was learning lean manufacturing in its scientific, technical ways. And I realized that I didn't have any way of showing Mike, the sales guy, what we were capable of doing, like what he could book to. He didn't have a tool. So he was doing what his job was, to sell the jobs. And we were facilitating this shit show every single day. I was actually facilitating it. So I created a capacity system by way of units of measure. And we're not going to go into it today. We can talk about it, like book a call with us, we can chat about it. But if you have a way of knowing how many units you're capable of doing on a monthly basis, and each job represents 20 units or 50 units, right? Then as the months fill up, we can see, okay, if we can typically do 200 units in a month, Mike sold X number of kitchens, we're at 200. Mike doesn't book any more that month. He looks to the next month. All of a sudden, everything changed. We leveled our manufacturing just by a simple way of implementing a way that everybody can see what are we capable of doing. Like, how big is the pipe? How much can this business do on a monthly basis? Nobody knew. So he was just booking, and we were doing, and the business wasn't making any money. And that's because we always overbooked. What can you book to? And it's actually, Nigel's got a fantastic way of showing you how to do simple units of measure. And it's a foreign concept because most people book to dollars. And you guys all know that some jobs you discount, right? And some jobs you make more on. So how could that ever be a finite way of measuring capacity? Because your capacity is pretty much the same every day, every week. But you're discounting, your prices are going all over the place. And you're using that to schedule? Just think about it. It doesn't make any sense. What you can do each day, each week, each month is relatively consistent. So that's what you have to book to. Not money, your units of measure, what you're actually capable of doing. And as soon as we did that, I put a board up. Mike would come in and he'd go, great, I can book to this month. A customer said, can we do it next month? But you're full. Can we ask we move things? We started having this cross collaboration about, yeah, we're overbooked in this month, but the customer really wants it in that month. Can we do it? And I'll go, yeah, I'll talk to this guy and we'll move this job over here. And he would put this one in and everything was cool. We were still doing the same units every single month. We just had a simple tool that everybody could follow.
It's I say, such a fundamental thing. So, I talk about Total a lot. I've had a lot of experience with those guys. They taught me a lot, helped me solve a lot of problems in industries I was working in, and they are the same as this industry's facing. The first thing they showed us was a graph like this, and they said, is your job as a manager or as a senior manager, just to make sure the team is experienced in this. Because there's no chance for improvement when as you said, everything goes out the window, right, when that happens. So even if you have good processes, the pressure's too much, and the team will start to shortcut things. It's the only way they're going to do it. And then typically they're going to be people taking time off, or they're going to expand the time on the jobs and there's not much work going on. They're going to take longer. You can see the times blow out. So the first thing is, if we create the workload equal to the capacity, then we've got a chance of expecting performance. Because it's possible, it's achievable in normal time. So the first job of any business is to make sure, can we see this first of all? Is there a way to see that? Can't see that if you're doing it in dollars, because the dollars will always vary. If you're aiming for 300, you'd always make it 300 each month, but you won't know how much time load there is on the business. And remember, on the shop floor, you can't see dollars, but you can measure time. So when we're scheduling in time. We're not scheduling or units, which equate to time. We're not scheduling in dollars. Now, when you do that, you can still go, hey, what's that month worth? We filled it up to the line and look at the jobs that you're going to install that month and go, oh, that's worth this. And then is that enough cash flow? Or do we need to have 5% overtime or work a couple of Saturdays to get to that cash flow number we need? So the time plan comes first, and from that you can work out what that is in dollars. And then you know if you've got enough coming in. I know that's most. I need to know if I've got enough to cover the wages, cover the bills, cover the rent. So we call this overburden because it's putting too much work on a machine or a person. And this is unevenness, right? We want to even that out. Now it's not going to be a perfect line, but it should be a nice ripple. Within 5% of your capacity. That's what you're aiming for. Then the guys have consistency, then you can expect performance. Then you can create all the good things that come in lean, like standard ways to do things, standard times to do things. All right, so let's talk a little bit about bit more about the other thing that can disrupt or stop improvement in a business. So if we are, when I say traditional, what traditional means is a batch and queue mindset, and it's how all businesses operate until they go through scientific method. It's just the way our brain works. Our brain works based on scarcity. Right? We're hardwired for scarcity because for eons we had these things called seasons, and we needed to have food in the season where there was no food growing. So we constantly would stockpile, make a batch of food to get us through the tough spots. Break it down very basic, with water and main resources. So our brain says basically, don't expend energy if you don't need to, and make sure you have enough to get you through. So for the guy on the shop floor, I want to see lots of parts coming through to know I've got work tomorrow. If I see that drying up, it might take a half day, might come in late, so there's not a lot of work coming in. How we add to that as a business in our mindset is we always talk about the big shiny thing making a difference in the business. Oh, we're going to get a new factory, we're going to get a new machine, we're going to get new software. It's going to make. I remember seeing one of our clients in the very early days. They set up their improvement board, and the only thing they put on there was the logo of the new software they're buying. It's going to solve everything. Very expensive software. I think a year after they had it, they were getting some benefits, but it hadn't solved any of the main problems they'd come shared with us they were experiencing. So these things don't really, they give you new capability. Machine, you can cut parts faster. New facility, you got more space. New software, okay, you can connect people a bit better through the business. But the problem is if your old facility was, for those who said, no, I'm not proud of my place, it's a bit dirty, it's a bit this, it's a bit this, a bit cluttered. Your new facility, within 6 months to 1 year, will look exactly like your old one. Because you haven't learned how to fix your old one yet. One of the lessons I got was don't buy a new machine. The guy said, why would you buy a new machine? I'd tell them I need it because got new orders, new volumes. And they just walked me over to my other machine and said, watch that machine for 10 minutes. I went, what are you talking about? He stood there for 10 minutes and measured how many times it stopped. He goes, this machine's running half the time and you want to buy another one. The new machine's going to run half the time too because you haven't learned how to run this one properly. How to actually get it running properly, efficiently. A bit of a slap in my face because I thought I was pretty good at what I did. Come from a CNC background, but I suddenly realised, he's observing stuff. I'm not really standing there watching to really understand the performance. So, these things don't last because as soon as you get them, if you haven't changed your mindset, they start to drift back to how the previous one was, the previous machine, the previous facility. You'll just go back to operate exactly like the one you had before over time. Might be 6 months, might be a year. Because we actually haven't learned how to set up a new facility and keep it at a level of excellence. We haven't learned how to run the machine at 95% efficiency. We haven't learned how to integrate the software properly. So we give up when part of it's working and only get a fraction of the value. So this very common concept, drift, right? So we don't have processes to keep this on track or even improve it, make it work better. So traditional thinking drives us into this paradigm or this pattern. Does anyone recognise that in their own journey or their own pathway? That we're always focusing on the next big thing to get us over the next challenge? And how do you feel that's been going? Do you feel it's a bit disappointing? You get it in, it's great for a month or two, and then you go, why aren't the guys looking after it? Why aren't they running better? Yeah, it's not the best way, for sure. So, just a picture, bigger factory, right? We'd all go, I love a big factory. But the reality is you'll soon clutter it up. If your current factory's cluttered and disorganised, it will soon look like that, just much bigger. A lot more mess to fix, right? So, what's the better way? So the better way is you can still buy the widgets and the cool things if you need them, only if you really need them, right? But the difference is when you have, your local team meeting once a week on the shop floor, internal customer thinking, how's the machine running? How are we filling the trolleys? How's the parts coming through to you? The new software, we're talking to the drafters around that. Is it working? What's the benefits? Is it providing better drawings for the guys, less confusion out the floor? Is the new CNC giving us better quality? Can we cut the parts in sequence now? What's the reason we're buying these one things? But more importantly, when we're meeting as a team, we're looking, so how's the facility working? How's the layout? Oh, it's not right, boss. Okay, let's talk about that. How should it be? Oh, the bench is around the other way. We got to get the cabinets on and off more easily. Right, cool. Let's make that little improvement. Turn the benches around this week. So every week there's a little improvement, little 1%er. Right? If you improve 1% just once a week, in a year, it's 50% improvement. So we're not talking big gains, we're talking small things that save you 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, add them all up through the year. This thing will save you, you know, on the cut time. But it's all the movement in between, moving the parts from here to the edge to the benches. That's what we want to work on, because those are quick, easy changes. You know, change the design of the trolley if the guy's spending time searching, or the parts are stacked on an A-frame and he's trying to slide one out. Or make slots and have individual cabinets in those slots. So the systems focus is, you know, looking at our things that our people use, like the facility, like the machinery, like the software, and how well is it working? The amount of times I see people spend, I've been in companies that spend $1 million on software, and 3 months later no one's using it, and no one's even said anything. I go to the CEO and go, mate, didn't you authorize this? Shouldn't you be having a chat with everybody in the business about how are we using it? Because I'm telling you, everyone's gone back to Excel sheets. No one's even using the software, and no one seems to even care or know. It was $1 million. I said, I'd much rather have that $1 million spent on other things. So, you know, we've got to be honest about our big investments, because we authorise those as owners of the business. So we really have to pay a lot of attention as to how well they're working once they're in. And the way to do that is through regular meetings with the team and asking those questions. So obviously, you know, what we see is, you know, the other one ended about here, because everything keeps drifting back. We still made the same investment on both these graphs, but we ended about here. With the 1% improvement, every investment we make is we're getting it maximised for efficiency, quality output, making sure it's working for the people that have to work in that area, in that process. All right, now you're gonna hear Bruce talk about this tomorrow. I'm not gonna talk too much about this slide, I'll leave it for your presentation. But it's basically saying, you know, think about your business like a human body, right? The heart provides a regular beat, provides the blood flow, oxygen, all those things our muscles and body and brain need to operate at an optimum output, right? Business is the same. What is the time you're allocating to actually talk about improvement? If that's not there, that system's dead. There is no information moving between the shop floor and the people that need to hear that, the feedback between the internal supplier and internal customer. That's not a conversation that can be started. There will be no improvement. There'll only be silo improvement. Production, right? I'm going to show a bit of a picture around how you create a pulsing in production. You want the CNC pulsing work to the benches like every 4 hours to start with, right? So you create flow. So what it means, you fill a trolley, it's got complete cabinets, there might be 12 cabinets in there that can go to a bench, and a guy can build that in the morning. In the afternoon, he brings the empty trolley back, there's another trolley waiting, it's filled, and he takes that back to the bench. It's just a constant shuttle every 4 hours. Makes your job, who's a production manager in here or supervisor? Make your job super easy. No longer looking at screens and times and hours, you're going, is that cart done in 4 hours, yes or no? The hard bit will be, how do you get 4 hours what is 4 hours worth of work? But if your guys are quoting properly, and you've got your software telling you the numbers, it's actually easy. This cabinet was 20 minutes, this corner piece was 30, wardrobes are 40. All right, set it up, that's what's going in the cabinet. That's what's going in the trolley. Give it to the guy, I just write on the end of the cabinet with laminate, start time, 10 a.m. Then I'll just come back 4 hours later, how's it going? Now, I'm not there micromanaging him, I'm giving him a target. Because if you have your guys coming in and there is no target, and what I mean by that is you go, even if you're using a comms board, work on Johnson Street, start Monday, finish Thursday. There's no target. What's happening on day one? How do you check whether they're on track at the end of day one? Was room 1 and 2 meant to be done? Was the kitchen meant to be half done? What's the milestone for the guy? You know, if there's no target, they're not going to focus on time. They're not going to focus on trying to complete things each day. They're going to come to you on Wednesday and go, hey boss, I ain't going to make it Thursday. Does that ever happen? Of course it happens all the time, right? But if we have a target Monday and we know, hey, they completed everything Monday they're supposed to get to that 4-day target. But Tuesday, they missed something because one of the benches wasn't manned. We sent a guy out to Bunnings for 2 hours. We lost 2 hours. All right, we know now, we lost 2 hours. The 2 pieces he was meant to do didn't get done. We can talk about, hey, does someone want to come in early tomorrow? Get a crack on those 2 so we can still finish on Thursday. We're going to discover any gaps in the plan because we're monitoring it very simply by 4-hour pulses with the trolley. If that's too challenging, start with 8. You know, but the idea is a fixed amount of work in that trolley that can be easily measured. If you come back after 4 hours and there's still 2 or 3 cabinets to go, you know he's had a problem. Hey, what's wrong? Oh, mate, I was looking for the hardware. Didn't come with the trolley. I spent an hour walking around the hardware. Cool. We'll look at that in the improvement meeting. How do we fix the hardware finding the hole, make it easy for you. Remember, always making the job easier. Always the first step. So production, predictable. 4-hour pulses, finding the gaps every time they miss, makes things super clear. And the last one is, if you're getting those two right, your cash flow gets better because you're more repeatable on your delivery time frames. So you can invoice
Don't tell
more
them too much,
accurately.
they won't come back tomorrow.
Oh yeah, sorry, you're giving away too much go. All right, yeah, sorry. I said I wouldn't talk about it, and I talked about it. So, steps forward. Invest in yourself first. Yourself to understand some of this stuff. It's a huge rabbit hole. You can find tons of stuff about lean. But, focus on what we've talked about today, because this is what's relevant to your particular flow that you have in the business, because you've all got very similar flows. Meaning you've all got CNC machine, unless you're doing hard timber, you might have different machinery, but you've all got machine process, a cutting and fabrication process that leads into an assembly process that typically goes to an installation process. So your workflows are very common, even though size of business might be different, type of work might vary too. So invest in yourself, understand this stuff first, then you have a chance of talking about it with your people. And then invest in your team. And I always say, find the volunteers, the guys that are interested first. Don't force everybody to do it. Get some volunteers. And you know why? Or you know how you'll know they're volunteers? Because they'll ask you questions when you talk about something new. Hey, I'm thinking about putting a comms board up, or I'm thinking about, creating an upright trolley with some 4 hours of work in it. So if they come back, oh, that was interesting, boss, tell me a bit more about it. That's the guy you grab and you go, you make him part of that project or that trial. Don't force people, because it's very easy to sabotage changes. Just got to do one little thing and you can make it all look like it failed. So you want to make sure the people you bring in first are positive and curious. You'll have a really good level of success. So commit to reducing batch size. That is the key. You reduce batch size, you reduce the amount of space needed in the shop, you decrease the time it takes out to get jobs through the shop, right? And it's easier to detect issues. If one client called me the other week, I think they said, hey, I have maybe 10 trolleys, between the machine and the assembly benches. And I go, what if your machine had a problem and was cutting the wrong shape or wrong hole position? How many parts would you have wrong right now? He goes, all 10 trolleys. It'd all be wrong. All right, why do you need 10 trolleys? I said, is your machine number live? He goes, no. How many trolleys do you use a day? Maybe we go through 4 a day. So I said, you've got 2.5 days worth of work there. How about get that down to 1 day or half a day? Machine's reliable, it doesn't need to have all these trolleys there. Then he goes, how many parts would you have with an error in it? Just 2 trolleys worth. So you detect problems a lot sooner when you have small batch size. Now they don't come around often, but when they come, they're going to hurt if you've got a week's worth or 2 weeks worth of inventory between where it's cut and made and where it's discovered when it's put together. So reducing batch size, many, many benefits. The most important one, though, is reducing your time it takes to get it through the shop. Become money smart, right? So, think about time that helps you, because money is an outcome of using time wisely, right? If you use your time wisely, you get the money you expected. If you use your time unwisely, you won't get out the money you expected. So by money smart, we mean is focus on time, how time is utilised in the business, schedule to time, capacity plan using time. Money will always be the outcome of that. So just a quick visual to show you, although I should have said anyone gets prize for their obvious mistakes. There's 3 team members, there's actually 4 there. So no, it's just an example, right? It's not saying the number of team members is irrelevant. What's the key is the batch size. Doesn't mean it stops there. You can even push it down to 2-hour batch size. Right? You're nesting in sequence, loading in sequence, cabinets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, building a sequence. And the first thing you're building is the first truckload that's going to site. It always starts with what's the delivery plan. Otherwise, if it's a multi-delivery job, you're going to have, and you build the wrong thing first, it's going to sit there for 3 days while they're going, where's the other stuff we actually need on the first truck? So always start your sequencing with how you're going to deliver. You've got 3 truckloads. Truckload 1 is the first batch we're coming through with. Truckload 2 second. Nothing of them will sit on the floor waiting.
It's 1 o'clock, Nigel.
All right. So just going to finish up. How much time have we got? We already over?
It's 1 o'clock now.
Okay, cool. Just wrapping up now. So lean principles, right? The next slide will tell you why this is important. So lean principles is we're focused on customer value. Would the customer pay for what that person's doing? If they're walking around backwards and forwards, no, they're not. Imagine you're the customer and you're paying, $50,000 for a kitchen and you're standing watching the kitchen being built. You're like on the shoulder of every person working. and ask yourself, every step they're doing, am I paying for that? Am I paying for that? Am I paying for that? It's a hard viewpoint, but it's very true, right? And you go and watch that car being built through the factory because you wanted a certain colour. But every time you're seeing the process finish, you're seeing the dollar value build up on the car as it's going through the line. And every time there's a mistake, the guy's adding another $100. How would you feel about that at the end? When you saw the car advertised for 25K, but at the end it's going to cost you 32 because they're passing all the costs of the defects and the time wasting onto that car. Would you pay for the car? No, right? It'd be insane to pay for the car. It's the sticker price, what they're promising. But someone's paying for that. That extra money and time that was taken, those defects and errors, someone's paying for it, and unfortunately it's us. It's the business owners. You're paying for someone to make a mistake, paying for someone to fix the mistake. We need to eliminate the chance of that mistake happening. So it can't happen, right? So customer value is thinking like that. Would I pay, if this was my kitchen, for the guy to walk backwards and forwards, halfway down the shop 10 times a day because something's positioned in the wrong place? The reality is no, you wouldn't. Right? Eliminating waste, and we talked a bit about what those wastes are, and long-term thinking. So not thinking in terms of money because it makes you make bad decisions. So pressure, monetary pressure will always make you make short-term decisions that often don't pay out in the long run. It's hard, I know it's hard, I've been there, I know what it's like, but it's called pecuniary thinking. If anyone wants to Google that word, I had to Google it myself. So when we only think in terms of money, it makes us make really poor decisions. So lean principles, right? That's what we need to be thinking as business owners, right? What is value? What is making sure continuous improvement meetings are happening and adding the value that we need them to do in the business. The lean tools, right? Because there's principles, tools, and systems. The tools are things that our people use. So 5S is a workplace organisational method that the guys will utilise, but it needs management oversight and coaching to get it going. Standard works, them agreeing on what's the one way we're going to construct this cabinet. So we all do it the same way, and we get the same time and the same quality every single time we do it. Visual management, so schedule board, defect tracking, pictures of what's an acceptable part versus a non-acceptable part. Not a verbal explanation of everything. A clear picture that says, hey, when the gap's bigger than this, it's no good, stop. Tell someone to get the gap fixed. Daily huddle, that's that feedback loop where the guys can actually give us back what's wrong with the factory, what's wrong with the machinery, what's wrong with the processes. And then the systems is really around more about our meetings, the leaders' standard work to make sure the other stuff's happening, make sure the tools are being used properly and the improvement meetings are happening, and making sure the system itself is working, because sometimes, like any system, it can start to fail. Someone stops doing their part, someone leaves, a new person joins, cause a ripple in the system, things aren't done the same way. So someone's got to maintain the system, make sure they understand how it works. And a big part of lean systems is a skills matrix. Right? So we know that everybody knows how to first do their job, build cabinets, do veneering, laminating, whatever those steps are. But more importantly, that these things are on the skills matrix too. 5S is a lean skill. They need to know that they can do that well. Creating standard work is a skill. They need to know that they can do that well. And we need to build that into, this is actually how you improve the work by using these tools. Management use the visual boards and the daily huddle, and the workers use 5S as standard work. And then what this is a representation of is like your position in the business, how much time are you focused on which of those columns that we just talked about. So the guys at the shop floor level making the products, 100% focus on the tools. I don't mean the tools to build the product, the 5S standard work. Follow standard work all the time, once it's been defined. Follow 5S, the process when it's set up. Team leader, they're working 70% of the time, and they're looking at the tools also, helping the guys with 5S and standard work, and developing standard work for new things that are happening. So they're 30% off the tools, off the physical work, and 30% focused on the lean tools. As you go up, you'll start to see it changes, right? So the management, they're more focused on job flow completion and addresses and any issues that are raised through the daily huddle. So their focus is the cadence daily huddle and any issues that are rising up. As you go up to the senior leader, production managers and higher, operations managers, then we're talking about systems. Is the system working?
For those of you interested, we'll be sending out a copy of this presentation.
Oh, if you don't.
So you get a copy of the slides.
And as the owner, that's sometimes these guys do principles. If we're able to talk about what lean principles are, it infuses down into why we need to use the tools, why we need to have the system. So it's kind of connected. Everyone is actually in the lean deployment. It's never just given to someone else to do. They call that bolt-on lean. And that's always the one where the guys go, I haven't got time for that. I haven't got time to do standard work. I haven't got time to do the 5S. It's just considered an extra that we're trying to jam in the system rather than becoming the way we work. We start the morning with the daily huddle. Every time there's a defect raised, it's been put into the system. So we can analyze that once a week. And every time there's a job that's got variation in it, so John takes an hour to do it, Mark takes 3 hours, that's where we apply standard work. Because standard work gets everyone to follow it the same way, get the same time and the same quality each time. Now look, we're not going to go into the detail, and I've talked about standard work and 5S, and I've seen a few raised eyebrows. I'm not sure what that is, but go away and look at that stuff. Understand what those tools are if you're serious about starting a lean journey. Or come and have a chat with us after. All right, sorry for holding you up. I know you're hungry. Just leave you on this. I won't read it out. You can read it for yourselves, but it's a very true study. And it's absolutely critical that we think of our people as our most valuable asset in the business. Because they're the guys that are going to either do it for you or not. And it's going to be a lot based on how they feel and how well the factory works around them.
Hey, it's Bruce from the Joinery Coach, just taking an opportunity while we're here at the Biesse Materials Week show. Pardon me. It's an amazing machine behind us. This is the WinStore setup where we've got all kinds of material handling improvements going on. And I just want to highlight the fact that when we're talking about efficiencies, and everybody in this industry wants to be more efficient, getting more work done in less time, that's just what you want to do every day. It's really important to focus and stay focused on that outcome. And getting one thing done faster will not generally make you more efficient. It'll make you more efficient at doing that one thing. So I want to just highlight the fact that we're at Biesse right now. We've got all these tools around us, all these machines that do amazing things. But as an industry, as a business, we want to make sure that you're focusing on reducing the overall job time, not just the individual ones. So the message here is really about finding your bottleneck, finding your slowest process in your business. And here's a little tip. It's probably not one of your automated machines. It's probably not a CNC machine or a fancy edge bander. That's probably not your slowest process. But in most cases, people will want to upgrade their fastest machine. And then they'll find later on it doesn't actually decrease their lead times. So we're here at this show to help you see the new technologies out there and implement it in your business. But more than anything, we're here to help you understand that your slowest process in your business is the thing we want to focus on. Because if we improve your slowest process, you'll reduce your overall lead time. Hopefully that helps. Cheers. You've come to this show, you're in the room, we're going to talk for an hour or so. What would you like to leave the room knowing more about than when you came in? What are you looking for? Like, what's the thing that you'd like to leave better equipped with?
What should be the focus of measurement when it comes to general KPIs in
a business measurement? Excellent.
Or manufacturing facility?
Okay. So how do you measure, when you say measurement, what do you want to measure? The success of the business?
Say KPIs that will lead to success. So I don't want to see KPIs in dollars. Is it a scrap rate calculation plus, downtime plus what are the measurements that we're trying to hit?
Excellent. I can answer that question. Who else might have something that you came in here looking for a solution to?
Continuous improvement.
And what's the question?
Oh, just how you measure it.
How do you measure continuous improvement? If you're wondering if this is shorthand or not, no, that's actually my writing. And I think the only one on the planet that can read it is me. What else? Anybody else have something that you've come here looking to leave with?
I just want to know if there's some other ideas that we don't have on the what is successful other than getting up, going to work, working for X amount of hours and walking away from it? Like, is there a way to grow and expand the business that's different from what we're doing? So,
Yep.
sort of both minds and just sort of seeing what.
So if I'm going to put it up here as a question, how would I frame that?
Growth ideas.
Growth ideas. Growth ideas. Okay. I can answer that one. Anybody else have anything we want to add to the board before we get started? Thank you. Burning the hole in the tip of your tongue type things? Nope. Okay. I think we'll get started. That's 5 minutes past. That's the witching hour. How many of you have actually been to a conference where you sit around the round table, there's usually a bottle of water and some breath mints and a pen and a pad? How many have been to those? And you probably listen to someone up in the front talk at you for an hour and a half, right? That's how a conference usually goes. We're not doing that today. That's not at all how we operate. We're interactive. So I apologize if you don't like interacting, but I think it's better if we actually have a conversation and we have dialogue back and forth. It's better for me because I know you're getting it, and it's less boring, if nothing else. Is that okay? How many of you know who we are, the Joinery Coach? How many of you have been to our stuff? You've seen us. Yep, you guys are one of our clients, so hopefully you know about us. Okay, so for those of you that don't, I think Massimo, are there more coming? We had about 25. It's okay, bring them in if they're, yep. A little bit about us through the boring stuff. I'm the director, but the one thing I will tell you that I'm of an age now where I'm happy to admit I kind of suck at most things. And I think the sooner anybody can get to that point in life where you realize that, you kind of suck at most things, but it's okay to admit what you're good at. It's okay. You're going to be good at some things, you're going to suck at other things. We're really, really good at helping businesses like yours. And we're kind of proud of that, because if we can do it, we can change lives. So that's really why we exist in the world. A few things that we have going on. We've got a marketing agency, if you're not aware of it already. There's our website. If you haven't already, we've got a podcast that's been going for 6 years now. We often talk about how long it's, like 6 years is a long time. We do a podcast every week for 6 years. And if you haven't been there, it's free content, it's cool stuff. The thing I'm probably most proud of is the YouTube channel. There's just an enormous amount of content on YouTube if you haven't been there, and a lot of our podcasts are on YouTube now as a video. So it's a lot of free content if you need help getting over things. Every single one of these has been answered somewhere in our podcast or somewhere in our YouTube channel. Probably more than once. And there's my team. I've got an amazing team. I am most proud of my team. Absolutely, 100%. Nigel, who had an amazing talk yesterday around systems and how to systemize your thinking in your business. I'm here today to talk to you about at a business level. It's more about how do you get that maturity of thinking at a business level. Nigel's our systems Riley, my son who's with us. He's our media production. Aaron, who is our coach in Jobman integrations. Anybody a Jobman user here? Anybody thinking about using Jobman? Yep. So if you'd like help implementing Jobman, which by the way, you will need help implementing Jobman. Never ever in 10 years seen anybody do it on their own effectively. Give us a call, we can help you with it. It's the fastest way to get it up and running effectively. Tiffany's my marketing manager, Sarah's my business manager. There's my fat face, and this is Carol. Carol's our newest coach. She's what we call the humanistic side of things. You know how you kind of know things you should be doing, but you're not doing them? Like, I should get up at 6 o'clock and go to the gym, but I'm not doing it. She helps you actually do the things that you know you should be doing, but you're not doing it. It's what we call humanistics. She's got an amazing skill set. She not only helps our clients, she helps all of us stop bullshitting ourselves about stuff and just get on with it. I'm one of those people that don't follow a structure very well, and sometimes the business gets off the rails a little bit because I've done things I shouldn't have done. And she'll just say, Bruce, just get back on track with the schedule, will you? And we'll be fine. So it's great. We love doing these sorts of things. We work with businesses on site. We invite people to events. We travel. So we just love these events because it's great having industry in a room where we can all have a conversation together. What we do offer is a free health check. And this is not, if you sign up, I'm going to try and sell you a Ginsu knife or anything like that. It's not like that. But if you do want a free business health check to understand some of these things, you can do this health check. It's like a scorecard. You'll go through and you'll answer areas of your business. There's 9 areas of your business. You made it. Did you behave yourselves last night?
Yes, we did.
I'm disappointed in you. So, and I'll show this later on if you want it, but the scorecard is just a simple way to assess your business, and it will actually give you a report at the end to say out of all the things that you've assessed, here's what you should do about it. It's not totally comprehensive like if we were doing it with you, but it's probably the next best thing. All right. Just as a show of hands, how many of you are tradespeople that run a business right now? Okay, virtually everyone in the room. All right, so I'm a tradesman myself. If I go back a million years, I can make dovetail joints. Like, ooh. Who's ever made a dovetail joint in their life that's done anything? Yeah. Who's sold work that you make dovetail drawers by hand? Not so many hands. Like, it's cool to be able to do it, but yeah, who cares, right? But it's a good skill to have. Our job here, like these trade shows they're great because you're surrounded by all these inanimate objects. And what have we got? We've got all but one person in the room is male. Is that right? True or true, we love shiny objects. Like, if I'm not getting something delivered by Amazon almost every day of the week, my wife is going, what's going on? We didn't have a box arrive on our doorstep today. You know, I just love shiny objects. I don't know if it's a male-female thing. I don't know. I can't speak from that perspective. But I do know that we love shiny objects. So coming to an event like this, my God, like look at the shiny objects around us. It's like kids in a candy shop, right? Now, if we were to talk about comfort zones, machinery, comfort zone, we love it. Buy the machinery. I mean, I've got a garage full of tools at home. I love them. Our job is to not hold you here. Our job is to work you through this pain of the fear of moving somewhere else to get what you say you want, but you haven't got right now, because you're not going to get it by staying comfortable. Our job is to actually move you out of the comfort zone and make you feel uncomfortable or discomfort. Any of you ever played sports where you had a coach yelling at you? Keep going, keep pushing. It's making you feel uncomfortable. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stay where you are. That's what coaches do. And we very, very proudly pronounce we are coaches. We're not trainers and we're not consultants. Trainers do things at you, right? Like a teacher at you. Stand up in front of a thing and they're going to talk at you. A consultant, which I have been in the past. Consultant does things for you. Pay the consultant 10 grand, they'll do a report. There's the report. See you later. Let me know how you go with it. That's a consultant doing it for you. When they stop, everything falls over. We do it with you. And it's a significantly different way of working. We work with you. And if you don't do it, we don't do it. So it's a very different way of looking at it. And it does effectively move people out of their comfort zone into learning and then into growth. So I think one of these was growth. Right? So that somewhat answers this question. We've got to get out of here, learn new things, talk about how those are going to work, and then establish them as permanent. By the way, I actually am a proponent of forgetting about the word growth altogether. So let's forget about growth. I think it was you that said growth. Yep. So let me ask you this. Your business right now, as it stands, are you really, really happy with how it's performing? Your net profit, your profitability, your efficiencies, are you really happy with how it is right now?
It's as efficient as it could possibly be, but everything is driven by the hours that I do. So I'm not happy with having to get up, go into business at 5 a.m. and jumping home at 7:30 p.m.
Okay, so you're working crazy hours. I'm not going to ask you what your profit is, but are you happy with the amount of return you're getting?
It's now a lot better.
Sorry?
It is now a lot better.
A lot better, okay. So I'll just talk broadly about profit. Profit in business for me is like an investment. like a term deposit. If you took, let's just say any of your businesses right now, you had of your money. Now, of your money means either the cash you have or the loan you're paying. It's still your money. You still have to pay it. Let's just say that you've got $1 million of your money that you've invested in this business. That's $1 million of your dollars. If you took $1 million and put it into a term deposit right now, if you're really clever, you're probably going to get 4 or 5% return. Profit, net profit. What's the effort? 0. What's the risk? 0. What's the guarantee? 100%. It's going to happen. Business is an investment. So if you're not, and you think about the effort, your hours, the risk, through the roof risky, right? So if we're not getting 15, 20% net profit in business, is the investment actually worth it? You really got to ask yourself that question, because you could take your money and invest it in something that has no risk and no effort and get 4 or 5% return, and maybe get a part-time job driving an Uber or something like that and actually be better off, working the hours you want, making more money. You know what I mean? So business has to be significantly giving you something that you're not getting by being an employee. And it's not like, for me, 10% net profit is break even. So if you're not above 10%, in my opinion, you're not breaking even, because some people go, look, we've got a 5%, 7% net profit return in business. We're doing okay, but I don't have any money in the bank. No, because we've got all these other things that creep out the door and the money's gone from that profit, right? So you've got to be significantly above 10%. Does that make sense? This is me making you uncomfortable, by the way. Hopefully it's working. So these are the problems in business, right? If we don't get business functioning really, really well, these are the things. You'll recognize all of them. Can't get my pricing done on time. People making too many mistakes. Bad scheduling. These are all the conversations we've had. I sold my last cabinet business in about 2002, just after 9/11 hit. Long story. Hit me up later if you want to hear it. I won't tell you now. But I decided to do what I'm doing now because I got out of my business and I really wanted to make a difference in the industry. But I've been in the industry for a long time. Before we had fancy CNC machines, before we had job end software, all this technology, these are the conversations we're having. Not making enough profit, can't find good people, struggle in business. These were the same conversations we were having back then that we're having today in 2025. So let me ask everybody this question. Right now, if you could buy something that's going to solve your business problems, you could take your money and buy something, what would you buy? Sorry? Training?
Yeah.
Perfect. What else? What would you buy?
Time. If I could buy time, I'd buy time.
I love it, but you can't buy time. It's the one thing on the face of the planet you just can't do. But what would you get in that time? What would you want?
Be able to focus more. Be able to focus more on the continuous improvement and all the things that you should be doing.
Right. Okay. What else would you purchase if you could right now?
Space.
More space, right? Sure. So here's the thing. Machinery, more space, fancy software. This is a really interesting thing. As I stand here in front of you right now in 2025, how many of you actually have most of those things right now? You have space, you have a shop, probably have a CNC machine, right? That gives you advanced manufacturing software, whether it's Cabinet Vision or Mosaic or, so most of us in this industry right now have advanced technology at our fingertips. We didn't have that 30 years ago. But yet, we're having the same conversations about the struggles in business. So we can't, in all good faith, say to ourselves, buying these things solved our business problems. Do they improve the business? Somewhat, 100%. But the purchase alone, being seen as a solution to a problem, will not solve your problem. Because if you don't know how to efficiently use the machine only does what it's told, when it's told that, how it's told that. That's all it does. It doesn't solve your problems. You have to solve the problem first. So effective scheduling on your machines is a human-driven action, not a machine-driven action. So our approach is to say, if you invest $1 in training, stats say you get $4 back. That's the Now I know, yeah, you're going to say, oh, my employees are dimwits. That's a bigger problem. But the fact of the matter is, if we talk about how capable your business is at succeeding, it is not dependent on what your business has within it. What software. We've got some clients that still have a panel saw and no software and a little edge bander that's kind of like a hairdryer, the old heat gun, and they're doing $2 million a year in work. Now, is it efficient compared to someone with a CNC and a proper edge? Absolutely not. But they're at 18% net profit right now. Hard to argue with that. And they've got the worst machinery and the worst software in the world because their brain is figured out how to make it work. Now they can take the investment. Now they can buy the Biesse machinery. Now they can buy the Biesse edge bander and the Jobman software and all that stuff. And then the business goes through the roof up to 25% net profit with the same or less people. So that's the evolution that we know works really, really well with business. So this is stuff that most of you are tradesmen. They don't teach business at trade school. The reason, I'm going a little bit quick here because I'm trying to pack a lot into this hour. So if I'm going too fast, just put up your hand and tell me to slow down. But they don't teach this stuff at trade school. So in our industry in particular, and this is right around the world, we've got clients in the UK, we've got clients in New Zealand, Canada, the United States, mostly here in Australia, but we've got clients all over the world. And everybody says the same thing in the same way. The industry is very, very similar, regardless of where you are in the world. Most joinery and cabinet making businesses are driven and owned and run by someone that is a cabinet maker or a tradesman of some kind. Now that means that you spent at least 4 years of your life learning technical skills, becoming a technician. I'm sorry to tell you, but that is a recipe for failure in business. The greatest technicians are employed in a business as a technician. They are drafters, they are purchasing officers, they are technical people that work in a business. So if you're a business owner with only technical skills trying to be successful in business, you're stopping yourself from your own success. We've got to break those habits. We've got to rewire your brain. And this is the hardest thing for people to do. And this is the challenge that I throw out to everyone. Yesterday, Massimo, how many do we have in this room? About 45, 50? Okay, so think of this like a funnel, right? The vast majority of the industry, let's say I think the stats said there's about 40,000 businesses here in Australia, furniture, cabinet making, in our industry broadly, 40,000, going about their business in some way, shape or form, maybe never getting any help, just surviving and getting by, down to these trade shows. Yesterday we had about 50 people in this room. Now we've got about 20 in the room because this is harder. The actual topic that we put up is way more difficult to get your head around than, hey, let's buy a system and put it on my, you know what I mean? It's easier to do that. So everybody in this room deserves to give yourself a pat on the back because you're in the room that's saying you're going to try and do the hardest thing that you can do. My dad always told me, do the hardest thing first, then the rest of it's easy. But the industry doesn't. We do the easiest thing first. We buy something because we think it's going to solve our problems, right? So this isn't stuff they teach you in business school. Process knowledge first, not something that you think is going to solve your problems. And then we bring the team together. Those are the two most difficult things to do. Because most of you in the industry, I've worked in cabinet shops, there's a lot of yelling and screaming and name calling and finger point, there just is, right? And that comes from previous generations. And so it's, generally speaking, it's not a great environment that we typically are brought up in. So then when we become business owners, we're not naturally bringing our team together. We're naturally saying, do what you're told, or do this, do that. Like it's a very sort of it passes on from generation to generation. So we've got to break that cycle. We've got to get business owners feeling like they're actually in service to the people that they employ. I'll just say that again. You are in service to your employees. If you're a production manager, you're in service to the team that works for you. If you're not, you're a dictator. And we know how that goes. We're seeing it all over the world right now. So it's a significant change in thinking. I'm not saying you're going to let your team walk all over you. I'm absolutely not saying that. I was having a conversation yesterday after our workshop, and somebody was saying to me, the person who runs the business was saying to me, I've got this one person in my business who's been with us for 30 years, and he's stuck in his ways. Come on in. He's stuck in his ways. And we have told him, we want you to come along this journey. We are going to bring you along this journey. We want you to come along. We want you to do this. They didn't once ask him what he wanted to do. So if you're in his position, you're going, well, I don't think I want to go on the journey. You know what I mean? There was not a question being asked. What do you want? Now, when we turn that conversation on its head and just say, we're taking the business on a journey, we're going to make some improvements. What would you like to do? What's pissing you off today? We go into a lot of cabinet shops, right? And everybody's worried that we're going to upset the apple cart in the factory. And I'm going, I'm sorry, but the apple cart was upset a long time ago. And we just go in and we ask the people in the factory, if you could make one improvement in your factory right now, you're on an assembly bench, right? If you could do one thing right now that would make it better here, what would it be? Those people have things bubbling away in their head all day long. They're doing something every day that's pissing them off. Like, for example, we've got 3 workbenches and we've got 1 laminate trimmer. And they're going, okay, well, I got to trim this laminate, but I only got 1 laminate trimmer and he's using it right now. So I'm waiting for the laminate trimmer. And then I get shit when the job goes out late. Why don't you just spend $70 and get another laminate trimmer? Okay, great idea. Anybody ever heard the story of the $1 million broom? A lot of factories have 1 broom. People walking around all day long looking for that broom. Add up the time you're paying the people to look for your broom over the course of how many years. It's $1 million broom. Buy a few more brooms and put them where people need them. You know what I mean? It's simple stuff. And the people in these work centers, whether it's someone on a bench, whether it's someone in your drafting, will tell you, please stop people interrupting me. How many of you have a team of drafters who sit at a desk and are drawing in drawing software? Most of you, right? Can those people be interrupted at any given point in the day? Right? They're like lambs to the slaughter. They're sitting there doing their thing. Someone walks in off the factory, what's this? And then they make a mistake and you blame them for making a mistake. Yet that is the most detailed work in your whole business. They've got to be working undistracted. Yet they're allowed to have people come in and interrupt them anytime. And mistakes happen, right? So if you were to ask them, if I was to give you 45 minutes where you're just like, you're in a, showing my age a little bit here, but the code of silence. You ever see Get Smart? They bring the plastic thing down and say, some of you will get that. They're unavailable. You can't see them. 45 minutes goes by and they're available for 10 minutes. People can come in and talk to them. Then they go back to 45 minutes of doing their thing. You will be amazed how productivity goes up and how mistakes go down. Just that one thing alone, work undistracted as a draftsperson. That alone will solve a majority of your mistakes from drafting. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So it's usually at this point I pause for a minute. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Is this landing reasonably well? Okay. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here and I'm going to talk about some of these questions that have been asked, like KPIs. KPI stands for Key Performance Indicators. So I think that a KPI, they're misunderstood. KPIs they're different for business owners than for senior team, than for people on the factory floor. So don't think about KPIs as one thing. But you as a business owner, you want to know profit, right? You want to know productivity and all that sort of stuff. So those are your KPIs. They're kind of easy. If I was working in your factory right now on a bench, what would my KPI be? Like what would I want to know as an employee, as a business KPI? How much work I can do. Yep. What else? How many times I've made a mistake? Yep. Yeah, I might want to know that. I might want to hide that too. Right? Cabinet makers are great at fixing and never telling anybody they screwed something up. What else? I'm on a bench assembling cabinets. What do I actually want to know? I'll tell you my take on this. I'm working in your business and I am a cabinet maker. And I want to know, how do I know I have a job tomorrow? How do I know that I'm performing to the level that's expected of me in this business? And how do I know that the bosses know that? That would be really important, right? So I can go home and say to my wife or my kids or my partner, we're good. I can do this. I'm going to be there forever. I'm nailing it. Let's buy the jet ski. Let's do the thing we want to do because I know I can do this job. I'm happy. There's a thing in the world called acceptance. Let me get this right now. It's a performance measurement, and it basically says, I need to know what's expected of me. So if I have a measurement in front of me, and I'll make this kind of really simple. If I'm expected to do 10 units of measure in a day, and I do 10 units of measure in a day, or let's say that I'm told that I have to do assemble 9 cabinets in a day. That's what's on the schedule, on the wall. My name's Billy, I'm in assembly, and I'm expected today to assemble 9 cabinets. And I assembled 9 cabinets. That is called reward and recognition. It's the most basic fundamental form of retaining your employees and making them happy because they know what they had to achieve. They know what their target was. So they get rewarded internally by knowing they did it. The recognition is they now know that the boss knows because that was on the schedule. Reward and recognition, and it's automatic. That's not the boss going down and saying, good job. That's the level above that. But if you can set up a business, let me ask this question. How many of you have a production schedule right now where every person in your business knows exactly how long it should take them to do the things you're asking them to do it? 1. You're getting there. So if I'm working for you and I have no idea what's expected of me or how long it should take me to do it, how would I know if I'm doing a good job or not? There's always the team that has the Speedy Gonzalez and the slow person, always. Fast guy, slow guy. Fast person, slow person. Most times we measure everybody against a fast person. But what's really important is how much time did you allow in your quote? I don't care how fast it's going to get done. I just want to know if I allowed 12 hours for assembly, did it get assembled in 12 hours? I don't even care who's doing it. It's just like material, right? Your quote has material and time in it. If we use the material that I quoted, and we took the time that I quoted, not total time, it'll end up as total time, but how long to machine, how long to assemble, how long to prep and load, how long to install, all of those things should come from your quote. And if you're not actually using those to schedule your work, you're probably working somewhat in chaos because it's, how are you ever going to nail your times if they're not being scheduled? How are your people going to do those times if they don't know what they are? Like imagine a track runner. Now, I can't imagine running track personally, but I can imagine if I have to do 10 laps, and in those total 10 laps, I need to get it done in the X amount of time. That's like saying, I need the job to be finished, and it should take us 85 hours to complete this job. But what does the track runner do? Split times. How long for this lap? How long for this lap? And if I'm not on track to finish on time for the total 10 laps, I know it after 1 lap. So I can adjust. I can speed up or I can slow down. But most businesses go, okay, well, we had 85 hours. We're at 90 hours now and we're only halfway finished. It's too late. You've already lost the game, right? So let's talk about what pulses you need to know. It's a bit of a shifting of gears here. My proposal is that we think about business just like if you go to the doctor and say, okay, I'm not feeling great, but I don't know what's wrong. What's the first thing they do? They take your heartbeat. They take your blood pressure, don't they? They don't go down the road and get a blood test. They might do that later. But the first thing they do is, well, let's listen to your heart. Let's figure out if you're having a heart attack or not. Because if right now you're having a heart attack, nothing else matters. So think about pulses in your business. If you have regular pulses. Now your body has 1 pulse, you've got a heart. But your business has 3 pulses. The first one we're going to talk about is your improvement pulse. How many in the room right now would like your business to improve? Everybody. How many right now on the calendar or the schedule of how you run your business, where you set time aside for things, how many of you actually have time that is carved in your schedule that's not negotiable, like it can't be moved because job's more important. Something like every second Thursday from 1 to 3 o'clock, we do business improvements. And these are the projects we're going to do. And nobody's authorized to do any work in that time. How many of you have something like that in your business? Excellent. Okay. If you don't, and this is common, right? Most people don't put their hand up. It's like saying I'm a sporting team and I'm never going to practice. I'm just going to play the game and see how we go. Guess what? You lose every game. So we've really got to have a hard look at ourselves in business and say, if I don't have any time set aside and the improvement, the CI, is not as important or more important than the work being done, you know what happens? And just what's happened in our industry right now. There is no CI. It doesn't exist. Most people in the room, I asked the same question yesterday, same result. Most people say, I haven't got any time set aside for improving the business, right? And the ones that do are the ones that win the game. So we've got to have a regular and steady rhythm and beat of things getting better. Even if it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, regular every day. Does that make sense? Second heartbeat is your production pulse. Now what we talk about here in the production pulse is what are the size of the jobs that are being done, as well as the work going out the door. How regular is it? That's a pulse. Like sometimes it's a lot of businesses that we talk to will put a whole house lot to the drafter, and that drafter will sit there for sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks, drafting the whole job. And of course, nothing goes to production while they're doing that. And then they'll release the whole thing to the nest. And then pretty soon, after day 6, you know, the last sheet is cut, sheet number 48, and that's a part for cabinet number 1. So nothing's happened in the production shop for that whole time either. So that's like big, huge batch lots. And then big, huge batch lots. And what happens is nothing happens after it. So if we can change that to release small jobs, small batch lots. I'm going to show you a video of somebody that took their production time down by a dramatic amount just in doing this. But we want to create flow in your factory. So if you're creating big, huge batch lots, you're not creating flow. You're stopping flow. So that's the production pulse. And of course, we all know builders are going to let us down. We all know builders are going to not have us ready on time. But that's a project management skill, right? That's saying we didn't manage that project very well. How many of you have builders that let you down with their ready dates? Like everyone, right? Every builder does. Builder isn't going to solve that problem for you. You have to solve it. In the late 2000s, I was working kind of doing this. We would see a lot of cabinet shops having the same problem. We arrived at the building site and the roof wasn't even on. I went, really? You built the kitchen, you put it in the truck, you drove out there and you didn't even know if the roof was on? And then the conversation is about blaming the builder. Hang on, could you have driven to that site weeks leading up to that? Could you have done that? Yeah, we could have. Okay, so you can actually solve the problem. And we're talking about project management. It's just the fundamentals of project management. The builders are always going to do that, right? They're just, you know, it's like they get on the phone and they call all the trades, show up in 2 weeks, all of you. And the building's ready for some of you and some of you it's not. So, you know, we can get a better production flow by better managing our projects or having better builders. Sometimes we just need to drop some of those builders. They're just terrible. The third pulse is your money pulse. So we think about the pulses of business that need to be regular and consistent. Your continuous improvement, the work going out the door with small batch lots being released, and money. How many of you have a deposit that gets paid when a client signs a contract? How much is the deposit that they pay? 40, what percentage? Just throw a number up. 10%. When's the next payment? What's percentage and when is the next payment?
30 when we got production.
30, oh, so you got 40% before it goes into production. Cool. Is that a,
30 when it leaves the door.
So,
70%.
okay. Okay, so you got 30% owing to you when you arrive on site. Okay, that's good. I would want to make it 10. Because roughly 10% is what the installation cost is. They've got all the cabinets. You arrive on site, put them in the building, guess what? They're not yours anymore. Legally, you actually can't get them back. So if they owe you 10% for the installation and everything goes bad, you could go, okay, have somebody else install it and don't pay me anything. You're still okay. And it's fair. They've got the stuff they ordered. So money is really important. And I always talk about it this way. The goal is to actually have them be willing and perfectly willing to give you 100% up front before you do anything. It's crazy, right? Think about that. Why wouldn't someone who hires you to build, I don't know, what's your typical joinery job worth?
We do 4 petitions.
Sorry?
We do toilet and shower petitioning.
Typical job, what's it worth?
Oh, what's it worth? Oh, anywhere from 5,000 to 500.
500,000, right? So you get a $500,000 job. Would they trust you to do it? That's why they hired you, right? Why wouldn't they give you 100% up front? Why wouldn't they? It's a lot of money. Can you walk out of IKEA with your new kitchen in boxes without giving them 100% up front? Absolutely not. Why do people do it? I mean, let's face it, an IKEA kitchen isn't cheap. And what have you got? You got a box full of shit. You don't even know if it's going to go together right. You've given them 100% up front. Why do you do it? There's one reason. You could disagree with it. Which does what for you? Confidence, almost there. You trust them. You know if something's wrong, you're going to go back to that little room, you know, in the bottom basement of IKEA and get the little bolt that wasn't in the box or the dowels that are missing. You know that's going to happen. So you trust them 100%. So if we work in our business in making our business so trustworthy that they'll give you 100% up front, getting the money is going to be easy because they're just going to go, oh yeah, no worries. I'm not saying we're going to get 100% up front, but I'm saying you really should be able to if you really wanted to. And we shouldn't hesitate to do it. Yeah, and it's unheard of. There's a designer in Melbourne, and I've just forgotten his name, but he gets a $30,000 deposit before you even book with him, and it takes 6 months to get a date.
You're not allowed to do that.
He's doing it.
You're not allowed to do it.
Who says?
It's about IKEA, and you're only allowed to take 10%
Yes.
after you've got homeowner's insurance in place.
He's just designing the kitchen. That's all he's doing. It's just a design. He's not doing anything other than designing the kitchen. That's it.
We don't do installs, so we're not allowed.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, we're 100% our own.
I'll just take a couple of minutes and talk about this, maybe not even a couple of minutes. In this industry, here in Australia in particular, we're, sorry?
There's no regulation.
Well, we have, as an industry, cabinet makers, joiners, we're good people. Like we're really, you know, if a customer says, oh mate, can you make that a bank of 3 instead of 4? We generally do it and we don't charge them, right? We're just sort of a group of people that kind of do stuff because we're nice people. And that has made a rod for our own back because we've allowed ourselves to be in the construction industry. When you really think about it, 90% of everything you do is manufacturing. 90% of everything you do is manufacturing. 10% is the installation part of it, roughly. Yet we've allowed ourselves to be governed by the construction codes. What the hell? Like, seriously, why do we allow this to happen? It doesn't make any sense. So in your case, just be a manufacturer and have an installation.
We're manufacturers for multiple cabinet makers.
Yep.
Our own factories.
Yeah.
And the way we look at it is we get the job in, and as soon as we've priced it, we need to purchase all the materials. And
Yeah.
if we produce it, we can't just reuse those parts on
Yes.
something. It's dead. So if we got, say, whatever percentage it is, 100%, and they go, oh, the job's not going ahead now, well, I've now got like just this pile of componentry that I can't reuse. So it's not like I can go, oh, that's okay, we can use this.
Yeah.
We can't, everything's being just made, so
Who's been on site when you've been on a job site and you see the windows and doors arriving? Like the big truck arrives, you know, and the windows and doors arrive. You know they're all wrapped up in plastic right now, so they can just leave them in the mud and it really doesn't affect them too much. You ever seen that? Is the building ready most times for the windows and doors to be installed? Nope. What does the builder do? Runs around and says, okay, I'll find a place to put the windows and doors. Your windows and doors. Yet, you can see the difference in the industries, right? We will bend and twist and say to the builder, okay, well, we'll hold on to your kitchen for 4 weeks till you're ready. Imagine the windows and door suppliers doing that. They just don't. They just go, mate, the only question is, where do you want us to put them? Now, I'm not saying we'd be difficult about it. I'm not saying any of that. But what I'm saying is, if we're going to make a change in our industry that better allows us to be effective, profitable, successful manufacturers, we internally have to make some changes. Because the industry's not going to do it for us. The builders want us in the construction codes. Yet, we're not really construction. We're not tradies. We're manufacturers, like windows and doors are. Does that make sense? So I don't know what the answer is. I don't have a solution for it. I'm just saying that I'm sad to see us slip into that restriction because we don't deserve that. There are reasons for it because some cowboys out there have made it happen, but okay, I'm going to move on. Otherwise, I get on a soapbox and I can't stop. So your pulses, you can see how we need to have typical, regular pulses. Otherwise, you're feeling stuck. Production is late. Finance isn't getting it. Team friction, you know. Who wants to fix mistakes all day long? Nobody does. So this is the friction we quite often feel. So a couple of nights ago, I thought, well, how can I show this in a chart? So I just thought I'd whip up a little chart and show you kind of what we're trying to say. Business is difficult. It always is. You think about a carpenter or a plumber, what do they have? They've got a ute, they've got some tools, they've got a tool belt, they're running around. Kind of a simple business, right? You've got bricks and mortar, you've got machinery, you've got a lot going on. It's a complex, bloody thing, and you've got multiple jobs happening at any given time. So this is a highly difficult business to run. Any manufacturing business is difficult. So if we think the solution is buying stuff, the evidence right in front of us says, sorry, it didn't solve the problem. Business is still hard. 30 years, 40 years after all this tech has come into place, we're still having, as we sit here right now, the highest rate of business failure that we've seen in, I don't know if it's forever, but it's a very long time. Liquidations in our industry right now are through the roof. And those businesses have CNC machines, software, like they do. They've got all this stuff. So if we invest in our people, you said training, and we don't invest in the fancy technology and stuff that's available to us, we will get at least a moderate to average improvement in your business. And generally speaking, what I see is this net profit. By the way, the ATO says in our industry, the average cabinet shop is only making anywhere from 0 to 7% net profit. That's what the stats say of all cabinet making and joinery businesses here in Australia. The average is 7% net profit. It's horrible, isn't it? So we see when we get people to have better abilities, you're going to get up to 10 or 15%. And you guys are in our group. You see some of those businesses that are here are better. And that's because we're not selling software, we're not selling machinery, we're selling human ability. And that got them up 10, 15%. Now, if we combine the human ability and the fancy technology together properly, sky's the limit. So that's the order that we're saying will get you the results. It's just a simple, I tried to make it nice and easy, nice and, does this make sense? It's a new slide, so it's a little weird. I'm going to play you, if anybody's saying, I don't think I believe Bruce, don't believe me. Andy and Ryan, one of our clients, have been with us for about 3 years now. They've got something to say about this. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it.
One major component we help you sort of realize and implement and move you forward with everything.
There's a couple that I think I was listening to Bruce's podcast for 4 years. And prior to signing up, we were on a trajectory to build one day and very bad with them and whatever, and manufacturing has been almost like an unhealthy obsession for us. So I took a lot from some of Nigel's podcasts very early on, and sessions with Nigel about, smaller batch sizes, breaking jobs down, but that's been a big issue for us. But I learned about lead times have gone from 2 months to 4 days. Lead times have gone from 2 months to 4 days. So faster and then the structure.
Nice little Biesse machine, as it turns out.
Funny, did the whole factory reset only in April, so we shut down for 2 weeks, completely cut the factory, moved everything around, paid for the speed at which we go now is just, you don't even think about it, do you? So, yeah, that's something good. Time blocking, just doing one thing per week is even good. My ideal work week when I started was, I fill every day with something, and that wasn't the point of the exercise. Later found out. It was just get one thing on there per week and just do that each week. So that would be quite good.
So these guys are champions. Like they really, really, really were committed. And got a couple of our clients in the room today. You guys are committed. You're here, you're in the program. And I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about you. You guys have committed to yourselves. So it's really a testament to you. And like 2 months to 4 days. If I was to say it, you'd probably call bullshit, wouldn't you? Because it sounds like a sales pitch. I couldn't believe it. I was standing on the stage there, as you can see, when he said that. I had no idea what he was going to say. And we weren't really aware at that stage as to how much they've improved. But it's that dramatic. How many of you in the room right now have heard of the term lean manufacturing? You've heard it, you guys have heard it. Some of you, but not many of you. You guys have heard it because we ramble on about it all day long. Lean manufacturing is the cornerstone of how you manufacture anything as effectively as you possibly can. Perfected by Toyota, but the great failing, if you type into Google lean manufacturing, you're going to get like 1 million hits in about 2 seconds flat. It's been around since Henry Ford. It's been around for a long time. Now, the problem with lean manufacturing now is everybody says, well, I'm either lean or I'm not lean. Well, that's like me joining the gym again after a couple of years and saying I'm zero fit. I know I'm not super fit, but I'm not zero fit. I'm either fit or not. That's not how it works, right? So every business is efficient to a certain degree. So our job is to get rid of all the catchphrasey lean terms out there and just say, how efficient are you right now? Like, how can we actually measure it? You know, like if you're going to join a fitness program, what's the first thing you do? Step on the scale. How much do I weigh? You don't like it necessarily, but that's what you are. So you've got to have some sort of a measurement to know if your efficiencies are getting better. How are you getting better? Now, here's the great failing with most businesses. Get a new facility. But we don't have any methodologies in the business that are going to be getting better every day. So what happens is you get a bigger facility, and I've seen it 1,000,000 times, and pretty soon that new facility slowly becomes like the old facility. Now we've got all this space and we just fill it up with stuff. And pretty soon you really didn't make the improvement that you should have. And we get a new CNC machine and we haven't really got better processes, so you drift back. And you do get a little bit better. You do end up here. It does improve the business, but it's a big investment, and the return that you get by ending up here does not justify the investments over time. But if you actually take on regular, steady improvements every day and get better, new facility, great. How are we going to utilize the space? Or maybe we don't need a new facility. We just figured out how to schedule better, and we don't need a big facility. And you're actually getting better over time. This is where the money's made. This is where the payoff is. And then you get a new CNC machine because over this period of time, you've improved your people. The payoff is actually in between the big improvements. And I see businesses at least every month that have decided to put in the WinStore, some big, huge, massive thing. But if I look at the years leading up to that, they haven't done anything to improve their business. They're just looking for this as the big, huge silver bullet that's going to fix things. And that's, like I say, that's this trend here where they're just going, big thing, slip back, big thing, slip back. It's a bad investment. We want to see your return be through the roof in business. Does that make sense? So, the ideal pulse, daily improvements, predictable production, and consistent, reliable cash flow. I'm just going to open up the floor for questions. Who's got a burning question at the tip of your tongue right now? Okay, so we'll go to these. KPIs. Let me show you how. Did anybody read my post on LinkedIn where I said we're introducing JBoss? So you guys, you know, our JBoss system is our Monday system that we've set up. We've had this going for a couple of years now. Here's what we know is if you don't have a systematic way of running your business, you're not going to implement these daily improvements. And all this pulse that I'm talking about won't be consistent like I've said you need it to be. So you could have JobMan. JobMan's a great workflow management tool, but it doesn't run your business. Right? So what we need is we need a way of running your business that is effective and keeps things on track. So your business should have one system, which is basically one voice, one playbook that everybody reads from. So I thought I'd do something. I wasn't going to do this in this presentation, but would you like to see what that looks like in a system? Okay. I'm going to cross my fingers that the tech will work. Has anybody heard of Monday.com as a system? Okay. So Monday.com is like Excel on steroids. It does everything that we want it to do, and it's just an amazing, amazing platform. There are other platforms out there, you know, HubSpot's one of them. Some people have Asana, but we've taken Monday and it changed the game because it's allowed us to implement systems in a business that everybody reads from. We actually, I can't show you that here, but we can actually get data from JobMan showing up in Monday. So the important aspects from JobMan is going to show up here in a dashboard. Your accounting package can show up here. The important KPIs can show up here. So we can actually get everything reading from one system. So I'll just show you one example of how this system works. When we talk about quality, quality is an interesting word on its own. It doesn't actually have a meaning if we just say quality. If I say bad quality, now it has a meaning, doesn't it? If I say good quality, now it has a meaning. But quality on its own has no meaning. So what our point is in manufacturing, we have to say quality standards, which now means to what level does something need to be built to have it be acceptable to represent your business? So you're never going to be 100%, right? You're never going to be 100% scratch-free. So what we're actually talking about is how far from perfect are you prepared to deviate? So all of you can relate to assembling a cabinet, right? You've got a bottom and a side that meet up at the front. Do they always meet up 100% perfect? No. So how far from perfect are you prepared to allow as a quality standard? 0.5 mil? Probably, that's okay, right? What about 1 mil? No. Okay, so 0.5 mil is now your quality standard. How do you measure 0.5 mil? Can't do it. You make a little jig and put a little notch in the jig. And you give it to every assembly bench. It's all the same. And you go, if you run this over where the parts meet up, now we have a quality standard tool that nobody's going to argue with. Everybody's got the same tool. One guy's not going to say, oh, that's shit, mate. I wouldn't have that in my house. The other guy's going, no, it's fine. Like, you've got to have a standard way of doing things. So defects happen from a lack of quality standards in many cases. Other things just slip through the cracks. You know, the edge tape was actually peeling off and we didn't notice it. But once we got people looking at quality standards that meet a certain level, people are looking for other things they didn't see before. But you guys know defects kill you, right? You probably, who sets up kitchens on the factory floor before it leaves? Yep. Now, open the door's wide open, have a conversation with us at some point. But setting up kitchens on the factory floor is the same thing we did in the craftsman era in the 1900s. Craftspeople set everything up on the factory floor because we didn't have CNC machines. We didn't have technology. Now, if we're here in 2025 and we've got CAD/CAM software, which we do, that was when the transition was made into not needing to set things up. But a lot of businesses haven't fully made that transition yet because, for whatever reason, we don't trust it, right? So what you're actually doing, if you're setting everything up on the factory floor, you're doing it because you're looking for mistakes, right? Do you find mistakes? Okay. You're paying someone to make a mistake, you're paying someone to find the mistakes, and you're paying for someone to fix the mistakes all day long. And it's only a few mistakes that you find, but yet you're paying a massive amount just to find those. So in our systems, we go, okay, well, when you find those mistakes by setting up a kitchen on the factory floor, let's put that into a defect tracker. Let's stop those from happening ever again. So if you're looking for a mistake, the idea isn't to find it and fix it and put it out the door. The idea is to find it and let's stop it from happening. Right? So if we can have a simple and easy way of your people on the factory floor filling out a form. All they need to do is fill out a form. And this is really, really important. Defects and paying for defects has the ability to kill a business, like completely cripple it, if you let it go, if you don't have control measures around it. So we have to have a minimum level of control measures around identifying mistakes and errors, collecting them all if you can, and then figuring out which one do we need to work on now. So years ago, I was a general manager of a very small joinery business, and I was in the throes of learning about lean manufacturing and defect tracking and problem solving and mistake proofing, and a big light bulb came on for me because I realized that we had all these defects that were happening, like everybody does, and I was just picking which ones we were going to fix. Like I had no way of knowing which one did we want to pick right now. So I was taught that, does anybody know the Pareto rule, the 80-20 rule? So if you imagine that you have a chart where the chart looks like this, and this is the number of occurrences, number of times a defect or an error happens, and you put them into categories, like this. Category 1, this might be scratches and dents, this might be drawing errors, this might be, whatever your categories are. The number of occurrences is going to be like this, once you put them all into data that I'm going to show you in a minute. So once you have an ability to make really good decisions, the 80-20 rule says if there are 10 categories, for example, if you solve 20% of all your problems, this is problem 1 and 2, so that's 20% of the categories, you actually solve 80% of all your problems, simply because of their frequency of occurrence that happens in these two more than the other ones. Does that make sense? So how do you identify what these two are? Well, you've got to collect the information. You've got to make it easy. It's not easy. Like, I'm not saying this is an easy thing to do when you're not doing it. But when you make it the way that the business operates and nobody's authorized to not do it, like if you have a team meeting, whether it's weekly or daily, and someone says, oh yeah, last week I saw the edge tape was coming off. What'd you do about it? Oh, I just ripped it on the panel saw and put a new edge tape on. Did you fill out a form? Well, no. Okay, now we're having a performance conversation with the employee because you didn't do what you're authorized to do. You have to elevate this, right? So what happens then, if you get everybody filling out the form, and it only takes them a couple of minutes, our system will then put this into a trend, and we can start looking at trends, and it'll put us into a priority that's going to say, out of all the things that we collected over the last few months, boom, boom, these are the two things that are the two things that need to take all of your attention right now. Forget about the other ones. Just do those two. Because they are the ones that are killing you right now. And we can put a cost to them. Because if you don't put a cost to a defect, nobody's going to really know why it's so important. And some businesses that we work with have $50,000 worth of defects happening every single month. So when we put a system like this together, quality systems is really important. I can't go through the whole system. That would probably take 3 hours. But what we did is we said, okay, of all the things that need to be done in a business, defect tracking is one of them. Maintenance is another one. So we've got scheduled maintenance. Now I know that most of you have, Biesse does your scheduled maintenance, which is great. Right? You guys come in on a scheduled time and maintain the machine. I'll bet those technicians that come into those machines where the operator in the business also has a scheduled maintenance program they follow. So every day they're listening to the machine. Every day they're looking for, is there a bolt loose? Is there something wrong with the machine that I need to pay attention to? That's internal maintenance. Don't just leave it up to Biesse to come in and fix everything that went wrong, right? They're going to do that anyway. You're going to pay for it, downtime and stuff. But if you have your people running machinery, they should be doing maintenance as well, right? Internal maintenance. So there's all kinds of things that we put into a system. And one of the other things that we did is we said, okay, I'll show you one more really quickly because we were talking about KPIs. Cost reporting. So the question originally was KPIs. Okay, so here's your KPIs. Total revenue per month. Material per month. Direct wages. How many of you on your P&L right now have direct wages in your cost of goods sold? Excellent. How many of you don't know what direct wages is as opposed to indirect wages? Everybody else's hand should go up, by the way. Yeah, okay, so really quick accounting. This is not a Bruce says this. This is accounting practices 101 right around the world. There's a standard for accounting. If you run a manufacturing business, and let's say you're implementing Xero for the first time, an accounting package, which has to meet these standards, world-class standards, you'll go through a wizard, and it'll say at some point, what type of business do you have? Now, most businesses in this industry just said general. So wages in their big bulk amount went into costs. What is the cost to pay everybody in the business? If you had said, we run a manufacturing business, your accounting package would have automatically put direct wages into your costs of goods sold and indirect wages into your overhead costs. It would have been automatic. Now the benefit of that is when we look at your direct wages as a percentage of your revenue, we can then measure your efficiency. Because then that percentage is going to say, we are 22%, 22%. Now, you guys will know when we first looked at your business, we looked at what your direct wages were. And if we didn't know, we've got to figure this out. This is like me wanting to lose weight. I've got to step on the scale. So direct wages plus the percentage of maybe you pay subcontractors to do work will give you a percentage. So it's not unusual for us to see someone that's like 35, 38% paying humans to build product. And we're going to say, we know what your problem is. You're either not pricing properly, so they're taking way too long, or they're just taking way too long and there's a lot of defects happening, or there's not any work going on in the factory and you're paying your people to do nothing. But we know really clearly what's going on by seeing this number go through the roof. So our best clients are 20 or less. If you're manufacturing, it's going to be lower. Because as soon as you get on site, all shit breaks out, right? And that's where the wages usually go out. But if we looked at overheads and things on a percentage, net profit is a percentage. These are the KPIs from a business level that we put into a system that can automatically track. And of course, we can make this look into beautiful charts and graphs and all sorts of fun stuff, like your car dashboard. Another thing we do is we talk about routines. So if we talk about if you have a senior production manager, who has somebody in their business that is a production manager? Okay. Have they been trained how to be a production manager? You're the production manager. Have you had formal training on how to manage production? Yep. Where'd you get your formal training from? Okay, you're a unicorn. Because most people become a production manager because you've been in the business for 8 years, you've been here the longest, your forehead is stamped, you're the production manager. Most people are production managers or senior leaders because they've been with the business longer, they've trusted more. But they haven't got any idea how to do their job in most cases. So we can help people in senior levels learn how to do their job. One of the ways we do it is we just say, what are the tasks you should be doing on a regular basis? So if you're a production manager, here's a list of things you need to be doing regularly, and you can be held accountable by the boss. Does this make sense? So we go through these, and we might break them down into different categories. What are your daily routines? These can be categorized by daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you want. So it's a way to have your people working on that cadence and rhythm that I talked about and hold them accountable. We're not asking them to tick boxes here. We're just asking the people that are doing these jobs in these roles to know these are the things that they need to focus on so that when they do their job during the day, they can do that. You know what I mean? Accountability means I want you to tick the box to say you did it today. You can do that if you want, but I think that's probably asking them to waste time ticking boxes. Even if they didn't do it, they can still tick the box, right? Any questions? So JBoss is our evolution of creating a system in Monday where we implement our coaching methodologies and tools so that it becomes permanent, positive, sustainable change in your business. Could we sell this as a program? Yeah, we probably could, and we might do that in the future. My worry is people are going to buy it and it's not going to do anything for them because they don't really know how to use this. So that's our biggest concern, right? But what I'm saying in this room here is if you know what you're doing and you want to upskill, having a system like this is critical to business success. And your people need to read from this system so that it integrates with everything that's happening. I could demonstrate Monday all day long, but I'm not going to. I love it. Like, it took us about 1.5 years to really get on board with it and get our heads around it. But now that we've done that, it's a total game changer. What's your experience so far?
Very early stages. We have to sort of properly on the doorway. Then I'm excited to get very, very early stages in sort of smartening up business like that.
Yeah. Yep. We broke it into 5 different areas. Inventory control if you don't have something like JobMan to do it. Cost controlling I showed you. Systems, people, and the other part of it is your defect tracking. And we're bringing in sales. So everything kind of flows through one system really nicely. All right. I would love to hear, bear with me for 1 sec. I'd love to hear what your takeaways so far. I've been up here rambling on at you for a little while. What's the one thing that's sticking out in your brain right now? Start up in the back corner. Putting systems in place. Yeah. What systems do you have now? Like, if we talk about systems, Excel, what do you have now? Yep. Yeah, Energy, JobMan, workflow management systems, 2 good systems. Again, having worked with, let's just say, JobMan for as long as we have, we continue to find people that have had it for a number of years on the shelf, never used it. And the problem is it takes humans to use it properly. And that's where the trouble comes into it. Yeah. How about yourself? What's standing out to you so far? Yeah.
Look, man, just starting a workshop group for us. Holiday manufacturing to be a game changer.
Yep.
Got a really difficult space to work from, quite tight. So I think that's a big thing to make what's
Yeah, scheduling. Tighten the scheduling up.
Another thing we picked up on yesterday from Nigel was doing small batches.
Yeah, small batch lots. What's the most expensive thing in Australia right now? Let's just call it real estate, shall we? It is in the top 3 in the world of countries that have it. Why would you want to spend more money on real estate? I haven't been to Italy, but I'd love to go, and I'm willing to bet if we go and see the cabinet shops in Italy, they don't have near the space we do here, right? And they're putting out 3 times the amount. That's what I hear anyway. It'd be great to go and see that because Italy sure doesn't have the room that Australia has, does it? You got these little spaces. So it is possible. What else? I'd love to hear some more feedback, what we've done so far. Yep. Yeah.
So make sure that obviously that's all balanced and everything runs efficiently from that perspective and you don't have money issues.
Yeah. It's probably one of the most significant things you can do for people you're asking to do work, to tell them how long they've got to do it in. It's the simplest thing in the world, but if I'm doing your job and you tell me to just do it and do it as quickly as possible, I'm going to go as fast as I feel like on that day. That's what humans do. But if you tell me I've got 10 hours and I don't feel great, I'm still going to try and get it done in 10 hours. So it's so critical that your production schedule shows them how long. One of the things that Nigel has brought to us as a team, you guys will get this. If you say, okay, here's an assembly job and you've got 30 hours total to assemble it, go. Okay, that's great, but you got 30 hours. How do you know that they're on track to get it done in 30 hours? One thing we can help you do is implement the parts will arrive at an assembly bench in a cart or somehow. Only 4 hours worth of work. Just a cart with parts that represents 4 hours worth of work. And they start working. How easy is it to then go, after 2 hours, are you halfway finished? And if you're not, let's get some people over here to help. How far behind would you ever be? A couple of hours at most, and then you get caught up. But if you wait for 30 hours and go, did we do it on time? You're going to go, nope, I'm only halfway finished. And you're in trouble. So there has to be some way, as they're doing the work, to know, are we on pace? And one of the easiest ways to say, there's 4 hours worth of work, get started. And then after 3 hours, another cart arrives, 4 hours worth of work. And then another cart. You get the idea here, right? So it's one of the simplest ways to keep people on track and actually achieve the 30 hours that we wanted to achieve. Because we're making adjustments as we go. We're not waiting till the end. What's standing out to you so far? Any big takeaways? Yeah, right here.
Defects.
Defects?
Defects.
Yep.
Yeah. It takes a long to fix, it costs a lot of money, it makes the job drag on forever.
Yep. How much do you think a defect costs you? Perfect answer. If it takes you an hour to fix something, it's actually cost you at least 3 hours, right? Because you're not doing the other thing you should have been doing, plus you're doing the thing you should have done twice. So you can multiply that if you want, but it's a lot. Cool. So there's our health check. Are there any questions? How'd I go, Massimo?
Now, that for me, try to solve the obsession, because even as I work for a machine supplier, I find very insightful the reduction of the basis can be in the mind sometimes of someone who might be controversial, because we say, hey, let's more jobs together, it's better for you. Actually, it's quite interesting. So I don't really have a question, I'm learning things from you.
Oh, good. Well, we learn from each other. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up, have some lunch, and if anybody is up for it, we're going to walk around with the camera, and if you'd like to introduce yourself to the camera, talk about your business, who you are. We're giving you a little marketing opportunity. We'll put that on our socials and our podcast, and we'll just have a little quick conversation if you're up for it. If you're not, perfectly fine, and just talk about who you are and your business and maybe what you got away from this. Sound like a plan? All right. Thanks for showing up, and congratulations for being here.
Thank you.